Good.
Pretty well.
Excellent as ever.
I'm good. I've missed you all ever so much.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, we haven't done Ludum Dare for a very long time. I'm excited. I don't know what to. I don't know what to say. I mean, a year ago we did one by accident that we're actually selling on Steam in the next few months probably. And then after that we did a really cool one that we use on a pitch deck for a professional panel. So our Ludum Dare is like pretty sick.
Yeah, you guys have just taken it and run. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's sort of been our favourite thing to do, really.
It's good fun. And yes, Camelot, sorry, you've just pointed out that I didn't have my audio input on, but I should be audible now. Hey folks, hi everyone.
Hey, quick one just for the 6 watching right now. Would love to know feedback on the mustache, please. Yay or nay? Because this is partially about game development, but it's also partially about self-actualization and the goal of reaching happiness. So,
Can I get a hell yeah?
can I get some hell yes in chat for the mustache, please? Matt, did you enable that mustache emote for your YouTube subs?
Everyone who subscribes to me, I've promised that you will send them some of your mustache hair. Sorry, I didn't run that by first. But...
That's tight. I'm willing to do that. I think there are certain levels of YouTube channel reaches, and like your YouTube live, like you're not getting a subscription every 10 minutes. Like I could do that.
It's just slowly getting smaller and smaller.
but like slowly, like meaningfully slowly. Like we get a few subs a day because they think it's funny, and I'm like, well, over the next few weeks, I'll lose this mustache.
He's sending people bathwater.
Yeah, if you guys sub to the channel, Will won't send you his bathwater. That's your incentive. Because otherwise, he's gonna find you.
Hey there, Infernal Online. Hey Camelot. Hope you're all looking forward to a new LD.
Okay, I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna give you a little bit of info here as we go through. Yeah. So there are some people that I expect to join us for this game jam, ideally, and they are my faves. Are we expecting all the same faves as normal?
I don't know. Like it depends on whoever's around. Obviously, it's been a while, so the regulars may have changed slightly.
The Infernal, I remember.
Yep.
We like the Infernal. Infernal's a classic.
Time, yeah.
I'm going to name the names that I remember that have been very supportive. Anna. Yeah, there she is. Hi, what's
Anna.
up?
Good timing.
That name always stuck with me. Anna Bananas. Rubik's we see a lot. Still present?
Oh, I've seen him in the chat.
Oh, nice.
On a different street, not on this one.
I would actually say probably Rubik's, Infernal, and Anna are my 3 favourites.
Rainbow the Llama is often around.
Rainbow, yeah, of course. Fuck, you're right. There's some good ones.
Besides that, it's often just other people who are just often on streams will tend to pop by for bits and pieces.
Yeah.
But Rubik's did try to once stay up for like the entire 72 hours while we were
Yeah, Rubik's is a fucking... Rubik's is a G.
Alright, so it's final round theme voting. We've not looked at the final themes yet, but there's going to be a list of, I think somewhere between like 15 to 20 themes here. I think it's going to be 16. And we're gonna vote on whether we want them to be the actual theme or not. And at the same time, we'll be discussing some ideas about what we would do if they happen to be the theme that came up. Now, even though we've not seen this specific final shortlist, we've seen the round before this, which is 48 themes that have now been narrowed down, and at least me and Niz have had a preliminary conversation. This is the first time we've been talking to Will about any of this, so I think we're going to actually sort of get Will's first impressions before we say anything for all of these themes coming up.
We're going to see the first 20, the final 20, and then just get Will to give us his ideas.
I'm hyped.
This is a really good way of doing this, because otherwise we'll infect you with our ideas.
Are we gonna hang on? So are we gonna go with Will for all 20 and then begin discussing them? Or
I mean, part of me wants, Will for each one. Will leads, and then okay,
we'll do that. Okay, so
otherwise this is just the Will hour, and he might get quite intimidated.
Right now.
But yeah, are you guys ready to go?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I got got a glass. I might nip away in a second to get a little ashtray so I can enjoy a smoke. But I want to enjoy. This is the only lazy night you get of Ludum Dare.
It is, yeah. Except for the post-mortem, that's fun.
The post-mortem is also sick. Yeah, well, we're just like wiped out. I'm very proud.
All right, theme 1 coming in. What do you think about this one, Will? We have Deeper and Deeper.
Ooh. See, now this is making me think, you know those coding adventures on YouTube? I can't remember what that guy was. Me and Liz were talking about him a couple of days ago.
Like Code Bullet and that kind of thing?
There's a guy who does coding adventures on YouTube, and he does like loads of sick procedural stuff.
Right.
I do remember the guy you mean, but I can't remember his name.
Fractal exploration.
Okay.
I don't know how that's fun, but like that is as deeper and deeper as I can imagine.
Yeah, deeper and deeper going into like the detail of something instead of going literally down the woods.
Yeah, deeper and deeper to me just is like a well or a cave.
I don't know how to get fractal exploration out of a game, but certainly, you know, you start at a very high level view of something and you can select things to kind of like zoom in the resolution of. Could be interesting.
Yeah. Like that website where you can scroll down and
open the Google Drive, because we have a list already, don't we? Discord
not for
is
Will
so
to look at,
shitty to me. No, just for us, because I can't remember what we said for deeper and deeper. Yes, I do.
Okay, yeah.
right, come on, then. You guys come up with.
So this may be something that's been discussed on the channel before.
You go ahead. I'm actually going to go and get an ashtray.
Okay, sure. So I'll hit this for a couple minutes then. We've had an idea. Something we sometimes do for like LD ideation is to think about, do any previous ideas we've had that we liked fit these themes? And this kind of hits for one of these. So an idea that I once came up with was something which is now called Fishy Lake. That's Niz's very good title. And it's called Fishy Lake because it's a fishing simulator. And it's made out that you could play the entire game as a fishing simulator and never realize there's anything else going on. Like it should stand on its own as a fishing sim. But there are actually like dark secrets in the lake, like Lovecraftian horrors live in the lake. And you can start discovering this stuff by just like fucking with the game mechanics, basically.
Yeah, I like.
Like there's someone. What was that? Sorry. Oh, no. There's someone like stuck on an island in the middle of the lake, and like there's a way of finding their message in a bottle that they've sent out to try and call for help. The guy who runs the bait and tackle shop on the shore is actually very shady and trying to make sure like we don't find out things about what's going on.
It's always the guy in the tackle shop.
Isn't it just? That's what my mum always used to tell me. Watch out for the bait and tackle man.
Yeah.
So that's Fishy Lake. Just a game where you can kind of like emergent game mechanics try and work out these weird secrets that exist in the game.
We talked a couple times about deep water generally also as being like an interesting setting because so many people will be doing mining. I think so. I guess it's been a while since you've done like theme generation and stuff. Well, but like one of the things we try and do is like what are all of the interpretations of this word or phrase, and then the other thing like there's probably 4,000 people. I mean 5, maybe even 5,000 again. People entering. Like how many people? What game are you going to see the most of? Deeper and Deeper, there'll be a lot of like probably gridded mining games where you're trying to like not let the thing fall, dig dug. So I think water is maybe another pretty common interpretation, but it might be a more interesting one. Gives us a bit more scope to do something a bit weird, and then I think that's where Fishy Lake came from. But just trying to find like another angle, and then also always thinking about what do we want to make as well? Like what kind of game is doable? I think within Unity we're pretty comfy with most genres now, but
yeah, I like that.
Let's head down to the next one and see what you think about. Actually, okay, how are we rating this? I suppose should we vote this one up? Do we like?
I want to say. Well, I didn't. I want to say I want to vote this one down because me and you, Matt, only had one solid idea for this.
Yeah. Okay.
That said, if all the other themes are bad, and Will is keen on doing something like Fishy Lake, I would make that game. I think we'd have a lot of fun making that game.
Yeah. Okay, down we go, Will. What do you think about Leave Something Behind?
Ooh. First thing that comes to mind, some sort of like Braid style gameplay mechanic where you play levels over and over again, where you leave things for the next time you go through them.
Okay.
Like maybe leaving spawn points, like with the flares in Call of Duty, that sort of thing. Like, so you're influencing your future events with what you've left behind. It could also be like you start off as like this massive overpowered thing, and level by level you lose powers until by the end you're there with like this little pea shooter or whatever, and you've got to fight the final boss, but you've learned all of the gameplay mechanics by the time you've got there.
Me and Matt talk about this as a general gameplay premise that people pitch a lot, and I very often struggle to work out how you make that fun. I think it's not necessarily that, like, because the familiarity, like the challenge balances itself, but the joy of when you start having a lot of options is overwhelming, and then when you get familiar, you have fewer options than you started with, and you probably are harking back to the days where, like, I guess if you're losing mechanical advantage, that's like losing like a damage number isn't necessarily that bad, but losing options as the game goes along often feels.
I suppose it's
not great.
It's a bit.
But yeah,
it's a bit like in RPGs where you get like a certain amount of skill points and you've got to choose where to allocate them. Like if it was level by level, these are what you can do. You have to choose what you're leaving behind to go into this arena. Like we'll give you the name of the boss, but that doesn't necessarily imply what you have is going to be effective against them.
Mm-hmm.
Something else you mentioned there, Will, gave me an idea, which was
I saw something.
A platformer where you are carrying the spawn point when you die. So you actually bring it around with you, almost like a, like the Spelunky eggplant or the gnome in Half-Life. Like it's just an item that you pick up and take with you. It only acts as a spawn point if you have planted it in the ground. If you try and pick it up and bring it with you and then you die while it's held, it doesn't function. You are going to get sent back to the start of the level. So
you did just make me think of a brand new game also, where you were saying, the idea of losing mechanics as you go could be kind of interesting as a way of telling players they have mechanics. So when you like level up, you draft like 3 cards or whatever, and you have to choose one of them to go away. But they're things you might not have known you had. So I'm going to lose my plus 100% damage when in direct sunlight. I'm like, I didn't know I had that. And it's kind of a way about learning the mechanics that you have. Like every time you level up, you're kind of learning 2 new weird abstract things about your character and losing the one that feels least valuable. So like, lose double dash by pressing KX. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, be a fun way to like introduce someone.
That's really good, actually. I like that a lot.
You know the card game Mao?
Yeah.
You're not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That could be kind of a fun way of doing something. Like it's still got that kind of like. There's a lot of rules that are applying to you, and when you start the game, it's not that you like lose all this cool shit. You probably didn't know you had the cool shit.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Press F12 to detonate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I lose if I kill 3 enemies who are in a perfect triangle within a second, I get wings. What am
I want to say yes to that. I really like that idea.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and also I can like part of my brain's always also going like that could be a top-down shooter. We could relive the Latvian milk glory days.
Glory days. Yeah, that's just how I think now.
Alright, that one's going green. Down we go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
how do you feel about Parasite?
Ooh. I've not seen it yet. Is it good?
It's very good.
You've not seen Paris? It's like the last film anyone saw before we all were banished. Yet sick. It's a really good film.
People really got banished.
Don't know if you know, it actually won Best Picture the year it came out. It's the first foreign film to ever win Best Picture. It's that good. It's really good.
Okay, I'll look. So the first thing that came to mind was, have you seen that stupid, the game that the guy who made Rick and Morty made for VR? And the parasites are his eyes. Like, that's sort of exchanging parasites to exchange like their like the way Kirby hoovers people up and takes their powers. But like it's an exchangeable part of you, like that parasite that latches on, you gain something from that.
Okay, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, okay. It's not
Parasites is like
things that we were saying as well, but yeah, I like that.
A parasite is something, yeah, because I guess also parasitic things are looking for something in a host. Like, in order to, like, oh, that parasite that gives me a fucking, you know, speed bonus or whatever, it only looks for, like, X qualities. Like, I can imagine there being, like, a loose game design loop there.
You did just make me think of something as well when you said parasites are looking for something in their host. And something that I've always found kind of interesting about, like, disease is that how is it spreading if it's like killing the person that it's hosting? Like a parasite wants to get something from the host, but without debilitating it enough that the host is no longer helpful. So it would be interesting to be a parasite
on other people.
What was that, sorry?
You keep them alive just long enough so they can cough on other people.
I suppose.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, if you almost you could latch on to creatures and then choose how much resource you were basically sapping off them, and you were trying to balance them being alive long enough that you don't just die off, with actually gaining what you need from them. That's
cool. I will say I'm expecting there to be a degree of viral themed games because we are still during the pandemic.
Yep.
You just had me thinking like Spore, but you're going from host to host. Like at some point you move on to a different host and you have that whole
Spore the game where you make a little guy that eventually does a dance and then runs a city.
But you're trying to outcompete the other parasites.
Okay, yeah.
Hey, Zorchus. Or as Anna mentions, we could just make the game version of the film Parasite.
I mean, so many people will if it comes out, and I don't mind competing with them. What up, boys? Hey, Zorchus. Nice to see you.
What do we think of voting on Parasite? Do we like that as much as Leave Something Behind?
I don't like it.
I prefer the other one.
Yeah, I don't think
I felt like it was more difficult to come up with ideas. The last one I could have done it for about an hour.
There we go then. Let's see what's coming up next. We have Shelter, Will.
Classic. Everyone's just going to do survival. It's got to be unique, I think, probably. Shelter from what? I don't know. Nothing's immediately springing to mind. I feel like you guys have probably got 6 million ideas from this.
Nothing for this. We were hoping you'd bail us out on this one.
Yeah, what did we have for Shelter?
Sorry to be that guy.
We had Shelter, I Hardly Know Her. That's what we had.
Oh, yeah. It'd be fun to share this with Will in a minute. Because we've got some really good ideas written down some of these, but Shelter does say after it as a bullet point, I hardly know her. So it's not...
When I said you guys have to discuss these on my behalf, this is exactly what I meant.
Shelter is my least favourite.
Yeah. We need something for it, though.
Hasn't it? Every possible permutation of requiring Shelter has been done in one way or another, and it's never a core gameplay mechanic.
No, it's always a setting.
Okay, what if it is a survival game where it is just like acid raining and one of your survival requirements is to literally just have like head cover as much of the time as possible?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's just
I think the one thing that I will say that like umbrellas are kind of interesting. Like a top-down game where you're looking at umbrellas of like a funeral procession, that classic cinematic shot of black umbrellas all bustling around.
Pixar
is
short.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Pixar short, the paper airplane one, is that the same one?
No, they did one with umbrellas.
I keep losing you guys, by the way.
I don't know what's happening with you, Will, because I know you're wearing headphones, but when we're talking, it is like you're being noise cancelled.
Yeah. Also, my signal is terrible, by the way. So this Discord is not the move for us in the future. I know I hate to say it, but like, does anyone have Zoom Premium?
No.
Do you even need premium anymore? Isn't it just premium forever?
No, 40 minutes non-premium.
All right, okay.
Anyway, I think that image of top-down umbrellas is very cool, and I can imagine a game. I can imagine that aesthetically as a setup.
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly what the game would be beyond
just a game about staying under other people's umbrellas for as long as possible,
or even just like being one of the characters in that mass and trying to work out which one you are.
Okay, yeah.
Like, you know, there's just like a bunch of bustling things, and your goal is to try and move as sporadically as possible and see, oh, I'm that umbrella. Boom! Next round.
Yeah.
Something like that could be kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. It's very singular and it's mechanical. I like the imagery.
Sure. Next one, I guess.
Enjoy your essay, Infernal. Best of luck. Let me know if you need any help with proofreading. I'm not free until Tuesday.
Okay, down we go. What do you think, Will, of expansion?
Ooh. Very open-ended. This could be anything.
Very open-ended.
First thing I'm thinking, like, Skyblock in Minecraft.
Okay, yeah. Skyblock's fun, actually. That's a good way to play Minecraft.
Yeah, I used to love that. Other things, like, what's that thing, like, blob.io or whatever, you eat other things and you get bigger.
Yeah.
Other things.
That's Agar.io, right?
It's every IO game. But yeah, Agar is the original one.
That one, yeah.
So, can I just explain Skyblock to Niz, because he won't, I don't think, know about that.
Is this not what you pitched last time? Because is this not what we have written down?
Skyblock.
You were telling me about the tree one.
No, this is a different thing. It's also kind of cool. Skyblock is like almost if Doodle God was a survival game. You start.
That sounds sick. What?
Yeah, it's like you start on a tiny little island, like floating island way up in the sky.
Yeah.
And it's just a tiny bit of grass and stone and like one tree. Mm-hmm. And like a couple of basic tools or something. And you just have to sort of use those resources to generate new, better, usable resources to get yourself to like the point where you can generate stone infinitely and that kind of thing. Make your own like resource generators, and you have to like expand your island out and out in a sort of a doodle goddy kind of way. Like I think it gives you one bucket of water and one bucket of lava, and using those correctly means that you can like generate as much stone as you need now and that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
There's something to that, I think, maybe.
Expansion is one of the ones where I went away after we had a talk, and there were a few games that I was like, I'd be pretty psyched to make this one.
Okay.
And I had an image, like, we were talking, basically, well, you saw my Causeway thing that I did in my site.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but, like, I can't give your game as my idea.
Well, that idea came off the back of another idea me and Matt had previously, and also just, like, a loose, like, set of ideas of, like, a game where you are effectively collecting hexes to place around you. And I think I could loosely GDD out a very minimal version of this, where you are basically on a hex island, and there are things coming from the outside of the hexes that you can blast, and they drop hexes that you can place, and that expands out your game. So it starts as a top-down shooter on a, loose amalgamation of islandy hexes with little things. In my brain, there were like little spiders that crawl up from underneath and like scuttle along, and you blah, 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 blah. And then some of them will drop a hex, and sometimes it's just like a regular land hex. And one of them you get is like old man sitting at a lake hex, and you put that down, and he's like a quest giver, and he's like, I've got 5 hexes myself, but I've got a few things I can tell you. And you sort of like build out a world of structure, because I think it's basically like it's an open world discovery format where you don't start with an open world. I think that's the reason I always really like this, is that like you get to basically build an RPG on your own time.
Okay, I get that. Yeah.
And I can imagine that in a very because Causeway was like it's this whole thing had a narrative and it was like full 3D over the shoulder fucking whatever. Causeway's like the sexiest game that anyone ever made. Don't know if you know. You got a magnetic harpoon. I love that. I love that people make me do a line.
I love that so
But I can imagine the stripped down version of this being effectively a top down and like little things happening like when you get to 50 total place tiles, new enemies start spawning, or when you place the summoning circle down, a new enemy starts spawning, and that allows for structures to appear in pieces, and you can get like ruin, like blah 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 piece, and when you form, house out of 4 house pieces that are adjacent. The house piece enemies stop spawning and you don't get house piece guys anymore, but you have the house now and you can go in there and there are things that you can gather from there and you can sort of build out your own.
Yeah.
And also it seems kind of scalable for a jam because I can imagine the smallest version of that and the biggest version of that.
Yeah. Plus, so obviously early stages, a lot of procedural stuff just because it's easier to get something out. But then later on down the line, actually having like a predetermined map that you're revealing places on. Yeah. So there will be a plan for the world. But
one of the things I did in Causeway, I don't know if you saw Causeway, but there's as you expanded out, eventually you would find there's actually another island that existed as well. You could have built towards. Things like that I think are cool. Causeway was like a test run at how to make games, but I do think there's an idea there that I would still like to see justice done to. I wouldn't like a different step.
The magnetic harpoon in a top-down shooter is the reverse gun that we were talking about for Latvian, so...
It's the reverse gun. But I think... I think a version of that is just more of it starts feeling like a wave-based shooter, and it ends up feeling more like a kind of twisted RPG with characters and quests and areas to explore and unlockables and things. All of a sudden, the game getting more complex as you just interact with it feels like a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I think also got to bear in mind that for jams, we're playing with 10 minutes probably of most people's time. You've got to
we got an hour out of While Alive, and we got
and Buried Things.
Occasionally an hour of Waver, and Buried Things got a few half hours. Yeah,
really,
yeah.
Fair enough. It's just,
but it depends on the game you're making,
for sure.
But yeah, I like that. I really like that. Plus, mostly, I'm just remembering nostalgically Matt noodling out on a piece of paper in school how to get the angles right to get hexes to line up next to each other.
Took me about 6 months to work that one out. So. I think there's something quite pleasant about building a world out.
Yeah.
It's what the winner of LD46 was World Collector, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that played on in a much more. We'd be hitting a very different feel, but one of the core fantasies of that game was that you get to expand your world as you go. Yeah. It's got the opposite problem of the losing mechanics thing, where you start very underwhelmed. There's not a lot you can do, and as each new mechanic is introduced, you are you haven't explored an area that has a new mechanic. You're introducing it at your own pace, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. You did also make me think, and I don't know if we would want to do a new version of existing idea for an LD. We might want to be completely fresh, but you did make me think that the Infinisweeper is expansion, because our whole thing about Infinisweeper is that you uncovered islands as you went, and there was new explorable areas that you could kind of get to. You didn't just travel horizontally necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind working on something like that.
Should we +1 this? We've said a few things.
Yeah, we can go with the +1 on that.
If you guys be again.
I just want to make a magnetic harpoon. I'm just.
Well, what do you think of this next theme, Will? We have magnetic harpoon.
That was mine, boys.
Hidden World. Hidden World is next.
Hidden World. Yeah. Oh, Hidden World. Right. Have you played any of the Room puzzle games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know how when you get the lens, and all of a sudden all of the things that look like an oil slick are now another thing within the thing. I love that. That is like, all of those games are so good. I haven't finished the Room VR yet, and it's amazing. All of their games are so good. Sorry, I'm not just going off about them. They're really good though. But that's sort of like, you can be dealing with things that, like, on the face of it are a thing, and like, this is a game. But then also, there's a whole like, you walk around the back, or like, you get this new filter, and there's a whole hidden thing going on behind what you were doing. You know, like, did you ever do the things in DT at school where it's like the black box, and it's like you put this, you get this lever on one side, and this is the output you get.
Yes.
But like, you totally obfuscate what's going on inside the box until later on, and you find out like, these are all things that have been going on that you didn't know about, and now you can actually use them in very different ways now that you know what's going on.
Yeah, black box just in general is a nice like thematic idea for Hidden World. You have inputs, you understand what the outputs are, but you have no idea what the process is in the middle.
Turns out there's little guys running around doing it all inside.
A very fast man. Oh, hey, Ash.
Yeah. Boys are back in town again.
Yeah, the boys are back together as well with Big Willy Wednesday.
Big Willy Wednesday on a Friday.
There he is. Big Willy Friday, baby.
Something that kind of works for expansion and Hidden World, and I really don't have much of a game here, it's just an aesthetic in my head that I quite like.
Okay.
Is, again, like, you make it's tile-based, you make a little world by placing tiles down. But you do it by it's the world you're making is like a consistent sort of countryside. It's not sticking together these hexagons which could have anything on them. It's going to make a fairly cohesive looking place. But you start with some kind of terrain on one side of these tiles, but then you can spin tiles over and just change whichever ones you want between two. And like change.
I really like that also.
And that kind of thing.
Oh, I've thought of something really good that I wanted to do years ago. Right, so all of those stealth games where the enemies have like their view frustum being projected and they cast shadows, and it's like a point light source, and as they move behind things, so that, but it's you and you're blind and you see with sonar. So you send out pings and reveal the world as you're moving around, and you only get to see things bounce off walls and come back to you.
There's a game called I don't know if I'm going to remember this. There's a free game on Steam that's like this, and unfortunately it's not executed brilliantly, but it's a very cool idea, yeah. I don't know how... This feels like complex shader work that might not be in the scope of 3 days.
Shader graph. It's fine. Big red button.
Shader graph is magic, but we haven't worked it out yet. Although, well, I mean, last time we hadn't worked out how to make a game and we made Laffy, so I don't know, maybe. Let's just do shader graph.
How to make a Unity project.
How to make a bat game. We need to go a little speedier.
We started 15 minutes late. We're actually not doing too bad.
Okay, alright.
But I think...
Rigid body who?
Say again?
I just said rigid body who?
Are we plus one in Hidden World? We've got a few things there?
My brain, I'm pushing the same idea for expansion for Hidden World, so I'll be happy to get it.
Yeah, fair.
There we go. Oh, Hidden World's also a save file game, by the way.
We did say save file game, yeah, which we can get to if we hit that again.
Yeah. Okay.
But
You did say what?
Otherwise. We have another pitch, but let's keep going because I want to get through
something else will probably hit it as well. But yeah, so the next one will delivery.
Oh, instant thought, that game on the NES where you have to deliver people's newspapers. It was fucking trash.
Paperboy. One of the first 4 games.
I was probably like 6 when I played this, and I could never work out what was going on. No matter what I pressed, it just did its own thing. Yes, Paperboy.
I'm gonna get myself some more tonic. Matt, you can pitch our... yeah, Paperboy's fine.
Other 3 things. So remember another NES game? I can't remember what it was called. Like a rocket. It's like in space. This is the worst description ever.
I don't think I can help you with that one.
So, like, you're thrusting in the direction, and there's like lunar lander. There we go. That's
Okay,
what it's called.
Delivering
Yeah.
like a lander to a planet's cool.
Like physics-based, you pick up things with a tether, parcels, and you have to deliver them to places.
Oh,
Like,
this sounds
that-
cool. Wait, what have I missed?
Controlling thrust-vectored aircraft is always really, really satisfying in games.
Yeah, I agree.
It could be about delivering like a package to the ISS containing their next like.
Like you are the Amazon.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Yeah, space Amazon.
Controlled. It's just like people on M-Turk flying them around.
I think as a setup for that, I can imagine a narrative setup for that, which is just like a guy in the Amazon fulfillment workshop or like a DPD delivery driver and just looking at it and it's like the ISS. And he's like, okay.
He just looks down at the dashboard and like flicks up the thing on his gear stick and presses the big red button. He's like, "Here we go!"
Yeah, he's like on Google Maps. Like we'll do like an actual like I'll film it. I'll get Harry around. We'll bring some cameras around. We'll film like an intro. But yeah, all right. What's Google Maps say? Make your way to Texas to the Saturn VI launch pad. Okay, all right.
Walking directions, the elevation's just a straight line up.
Other things that we mentioned for delivery while we're here was a Crazy Taxi style game. I think the just
nice.
Crazy Taxi.
I just love Crazy Taxi. Me and Matt have actually pitched a few times just wanting to do a game where you drive. I think because we haven't done it yet. Like driving and racing are fun.
Think of all of the AAA games that you've played where the driving feels like shite.
But also think of like all of the games from like 1993 where it feels sick, like Micro Machines or like Mario Kart 1.
Yeah.
Like, isn't a lot of it just like if you can make turning feel fun, you've got it.
I'm up for it. I'm always up for it.
I'm not saying we try and like simulate like tire grip. I
just think, given how big a perfectionist group of people we are in terms of game feel, we're going to spend a hell of a lot of time just making the driving tolerable before we get to any gameplay.
Well, I mean, now there's three of us. That may be quite an acceptable thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, true.
The other thing as well is an idea that we've had for previous LDs where you're trailing like a power line behind you, like you're just leaving a wire wherever you've walked, and you need to connect basically just like two isolated towns together to bring power to one of them. And
there was a mechanical twist to this one which I really liked. I like the idea, and again, I'll pitch my version. Like, I have a vision of this one in my brain that we could happily muddle with and fuck with. But I really like the idea of having a constant, infinite rope behind you that, as you're moving around, is also your lifeline of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So, like, if there's a baddie can shoot at you, but they can also shoot at your lifeline. So the shorter it is, the more valuable it is. So you're trying to move between places to tie it off. Because once it's tied off, the tied off bit is not a vulnerability.
Oh, a bit like have you ever played Unravel 2?
No, is that how that works?
It's like you two characters with a piece of yarn in between you, and it's like physics.
Also...
Yeah. So like you have to tie it around things and stuff to get around the levels.
Yeah, I really like the idea of tying off on stuff, and then also on even little things like being able to wrap it around a baddie to like boa can squeeze it back. Like just the idea of like having something behind you that you can like and tie off on things is cool. And I can imagine mechanically a lot of ways that you can make that work.
I'm also picturing like the old diver in the diving bell with his like umbilical oxygen connection. Like
yeah.
Really
I watched a film about this like 3 weeks ago. Netflix talked about a guy that was diving and he got his thing. It got tied off on something and he was unconscious underwater for like I want to say 2 hours.
Now giving David Blaine a run for his money.
And he lived.
Jesus. Was he mashed potatoes?
Spoiler alert, by the way, because they only reveal that like 2/3 of the way through the film. It's fucking sick. Like they're talking about this guy and how they basically went to like recover his dead body, and then like at 2/3 of the way through the film, the guy like walks on camera and starts getting interviewed, and you're like, no, come on, no. It's not a very good film, but that moment is sick.
This guy was diving and then he died.
Yeah, that would have been a weird film. I'm going to find Netflix diving documentary.
Yeah, but like a lot of other people back then with that sort of diving equipment.
Last Breath, it's called.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about this film the other day.
It's kind of cool.
I didn't. Well, I clearly had the spoiler-free version of the story.
Sorry, mate. It's really interesting. Also, like, the guy that rescues him, sorry, I know we're getting so off topic. The guy that rescues him is, like, kind of a cunt. Like, he's a really interesting dude. Like, basically, he's really cold. And a lot of the time, he's like, I was just going to rescue a dead body. I knew what I was doing. And then when he's talking about, like, bringing him in, and the guy finally wakes up and starts breathing again, and he starts talking about, like, I was almost pissed off, like, because of da-da-da. And I thought the whole thing was leading to, like, this guy is obviously, like, gone through a big thing, and at the end he's going to, like, cry and be like, I guess I was just handling intense stress. But he never does. He's like, I was kind of pissed off he lived. Anyway, bye. And that was, like, the whole thing for that guy. I was like, this guy sucks!
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that would do to you?
I was wrong, by the way. He was only out of oxygen for 30 minutes. But that's insane.
I was going to say, yeah, not really my area of expertise, but 2 hours seems like a long time.
It was 30 minutes. With no oxygen, though. Post-oxygen 30 minutes. I think he was under for like an hour because he had like half an hour of oxygen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Insane.
To be fair, down at depth you get longer because, yeah, never mind, I'm going off topic.
Well, like he was trying to work out why it happened. He was like, I think part of it was that I was insanely cold. Like, that probably helped a lot. Like, I was going through regulation as well. Anyway, should we do some game stuff?
People in frozen lakes can survive for like 2 hours.
Mad.
Anyway, yeah.
So, what rating are we putting on Delivery? I don't know.
I think it's so open-ended we can make whatever we like and call it Delivery.
Should we neutral it for now, perhaps?
I think it's probably neutral. It's definitely not a no.
Okay. Next one, Will. Oh, speaking of the power lines idea, you are the power source.
That was the same power line idea, delivering some kind of power, lighting up bulbs as you turn on.
Yeah, I like that. You're the power source. What can we do with that?
It's a very
like you are a spinny man, and you interact with things. Like you're a cog that spins. You interact with things.
Yeah, like there's something kind of fun about being an item. Do you guys? What was that game where you play as a limo that is always spinning?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The limo that's always spinning. Roundabout. It's a game called Roundabout.
Yeah.
And you play as a limousine. Like it's like a taxi game, but you're a limo that's always spinning. So you're like an awkward shape at annoying times, basically. Okay. But the idea of being a shape that is always in motion is kind of interesting. I can imagine, like, for example, a top-down shooter where you are always spinning and that part is out of your control.
Yeah. Which
is kind of interesting to, like, battle that. But then also, yeah, you could, like, lock into a machine that has cogs for a minute and, like, power that for a bit and then dip out and be someone who's otherwise ineffective at something. Like, effective at one thing, ineffective at another thing.
You are the power source. Oh, you are the power source could also be like, you're that thing you showed me, the game demo, where you become the other things and roll around and shit.
Huh.
Can you remember?
I showed you?
Where you'd be like a cone with little wobbly arms.
Oh, my demo for a game I met. Okay, I see. There were inhabitants where you inhabit various objects.
Yes.
Yeah, you could, if you just change the art so that they all look like powered down until you jump into them.
Yeah, just like being a thing that inhabits various like robots and stuff.
You can almost do the same thing as Parasite. You just change the art style to make it that you're a power source.
Yeah, you could. We could definitely make something of that. Like, are we going for like a full 3D type deal?
I don't know. Maybe.
I'd be game to also. I gotta say, one of the things that I am happy to do is take on a technical challenge this time. With Will being here, I kind of just want to hit a success. But if we want to do something a bit risky, we can.
I'm happy to do anything. This is a holiday for me.
I want to vote this down on principle. It's just a terrible thing.
I really like the idea of deliberately misinterpreting the name of the challenge and being like, power source with an A. Like, how power source?
You are a powerful source.
Sorry, that's just the chaos in me.
Most powerful source, everyone vote.
Let's spend 3 days deliberately misinterpreting something.
The answer is honey mustard, by the way, you guys failed.
I was going to say Chipotle mayo is a pretty powerful sauce.
Everyone's going on about Chipotle these days. Did you know, but it's fine, I'm going to do a little aside on everything we do here. Yeah. Do you know the 3 most popular brands with American teens voted in 2021? So we've not had that long. Do you reckon you guys can guess? It was on like people that were polled. Do you think you can get even one of them?
Of
Netflix,
like any
Nike.
category?
Nike.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not just talking clothes, we're talking anything.
Any category of like notable brand.
I was going to say like
not
Supreme.
Netflix.
Not Netflix. No. But Nike is the only one you'll get.
So not that Supreme brand.
No, Supreme. They do well. Nike is one of them. Chipotle is number 2, which blew my mind.
What's that one with?
It's in the States, granted.
Balenciaga or whatever.
No, you ready for number 3? Because you're not going to believe me. I think this is the proof that we got old, by the way, guys. Number 3 is Crocs. Crocs are in, or at least they have been for a couple months.
I
Madness.
am offended to say I own a pair of Crocs.
Come on, Will! You're the coolest person ever!
With the U's. Yeah. No, I don't wear them in public. Well, technically.
Well, you should. Well, you will now.
Yeah. Check me out. Rolling down the street in my Crocs. No, I don't believe it. That's bollocks.
It's true. It's genuinely
Made it
true.
up. This is fake news.
It feels very fake news, I agree. This room.
Do Crocs do Crocs that don't look like Crocs?
Yeah,
Wow, that was a sentence.
But I am going to suggest that instead of looking up the different kinds
I know Post Malone recently did some Crocs.
Okay, right. We're moving on. Next theme. Generations.
No, these are pretty rad.
These are kind of sick, actually. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Generations.
Go.
Ooh, Generations. Sort of platformer where you're a Russian doll. I sort of like that.
That game does exist, I think.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, it was a good idea, clearly.
It's someone. Isn't like Peter Molyneux did one?
And isn't it just
Of course he did. Hasn't he made like every game in the world?
There's a game called
Stacking.
Yeah.
That's who made Stacking? It's it's Double Fine.
Yeah.
It's Double Fine.
Oh, okay. Also, they're harking back to the leave something behind. Like, the world you're in can be getting older and older every time you play through, and you're dealing with the things that your ancestors changed. But like the technology and things is changing as time goes on. So the way you're exploring the game changes, but you're still harking back to the fundamentals that you were influencing earlier on. So you're progressing through time and also revisiting things in a whole new light.
I like that. Like my brain always when you say that, like mechanically, it always tries to pick on one of the classics. Like I can imagine doing World 1-1 of Mario or whatever, or just like an infinite like side-scrolling platformer. But like when you die, you know that like game that Donkey reviewed, where when you die you have like a massive funeral. It's so good. Like your character dies and the police arrive and they arrest the Goomba that killed you and stuff. Like it's a funny idea. And like you can't when you go to restart the game, you can't do it. Like it saves your browser cookies and stuff, and it just keeps taking these like there's like 100 ending cutscenes.
You have to revisit the gravestone.
Yeah. And you see like your like kids come and like leave flowers. It's a funny idea. But anyway, something like that where when you like die in the game, the next generation comes and you see how the world has like changed.
Yeah.
It's like there's a cityscape in the background, like some of the things have changed. And you have like a new mechanic, like, all our kids had grappling hooks. Like we're like second generation of platformers where everyone had a double jump or something. You know what I mean? Like you can imagine like the kind of
that. Actually going through gameplay mechanics that like going back actual console generations.
Yeah, no, that's actually kind of sick.
Every level you go from 8-bit, 16-bit, N64 sort of graphics, like going through time.
That's quite cool.
I can imagine that being a pretty sick, like, yeah, you pick like 5 mechanics. Yeah. I don't know what, like, the thing is that
How you pull all the nostalgia strings without using copyrighted art or sound effects, I do not know. Because I'm just playing, the sound it makes when you turn the Wii on and you first get into the Wii menu.
Yeah.
And that makes me nostalgic in my own head.
You could have some really like interesting, almost story moments as well, where you just bring something from a future game back into like an old 8-bit game and show the NPCs, and they're just like, "What the fuck is this?"
Oh, that's fun! Yeah, like console generations.
Yeah, and they're just like, "What? Like this is magic! Like we're all made of these little pixels, and you just brought us this like high fidelity fucking."
Yeah, like if Mario 64 came back and tried to explain the concept of the third dimension to like Super Mario Bros. NES.
Because like whenever Nintendo ever addressed that, they always just squish the 3D characters. Like they Paper Mario-ize anything 3D if they've ever done that. Like that's a thing I've seen. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that.
So console generations, like ancestral generations, there's a lot you can do with that. I think there's fun to be had.
One more thing as well, which might be overreaching for an LD, but we do have a bit of experience with this now, maybe, ? You could have almost like a Chinese Whispers style game where you actually get the instructions as written by someone else who's played the game before you, this LD.
Oh, you want to try something with AWS or something?
You could.
I'd be very on board because I really wanted to get my head around it for a while, and we did make Unity speak to Amazon.
I mean, to be fair, if ever you're going to have an audience who's going to be up for actually participating in something like that, it's something like this.
Yeah.
Like, and they're not just going to do a space in the box just so they can move on.
Yeah, like I'm thinking, you get some instructions about how you're supposed to complete a puzzle or whatever. Then you complete the puzzle, but have like a very short amount of time, or few characters, or you only have the resources you had as a remainder after completing the puzzle to leave the instructions of what you're supposed to do to the next person, or something like that.
So it's like WarioWare games, where you have like, don't pick the left nostril.
Yeah, basically.
That's kind of fun. Or like, yeah, I do like it, like passing on information about what you did. Or like if you win, fuck. Okay, my brain's going to like a very abstract place now. But like, basically a game that you solve that feels quite abstract. Like, imagine something loosely Game of Lifey.
Yeah.
Like something that like feels like it's like just a series of like pixels on the grid. It's something loosely Game of Lifey, and there's a bunch of rules that have been preset, and you solve it. And if you solve it, you get to like rewrite the rules of the game, and then see the data sent back to you about how many people are completing your game or whatever. Or just something like Luigi's Balloon World, like something where you're leaving a trail, and then you get to see how other people have interacted with what you're doing.
That you'd need to make sure that is fitting generations, but yeah.
Or like you pick a team at the beginning, red team or blue team, and then you get to give red team the instructions. See if you can fox blue team. I don't know, this is too much now.
Having gameplay playback, like in racing games, where you get to see the shadow of other people who've played it. Seeing how other people solve the puzzles, and like you could just be watching them do something really wrong.
I wonder whether also, okay, it's kind of a very different. You gave me a new idea here, very different direction, Will. It's like a speedrunning platformer / racer. Let's say that every a level is going to take you roughly 30 seconds to complete, just as an example, and you run it. But what you get the opportunity to do to try and optimize your run is start from some point along that run, and take it from the point where you were at that time, and like try again from there. So you don't just begin the full 30 seconds over. You might say, my first 10 were like beautiful. I had that absolutely perfect. So I'm going to start from the 10-second mark and run that to the end. And every time you do that, the time period between where you're beginning to the end has to be shorter and shorter. You can't go backwards.
Yeah.
And you can just keep like re-optimizing as you go forwards. It always has to be 2 or 3 seconds in the future from the last place you began, and you just keep narrowing down your optimization as you get closer to the finish line to try and get the best run you can.
Speedrun simulator.
Almost, yeah. It's almost like halfway to a Taz.
I kind of am vibing to that.
It's a bit of a stretch to Generations, but you could sell it with the art, I think.
Oh, also, I don't know if I know anyone who hasn't spent hours playing on those things where it's like the AI, you create things that can walk.
Yeah.
Every generation it creates a slightly better version of the thing that can walk. I've always wanted to do something like that.
I have to, but I feel like that's just you, me, and Matt spend 3 days doing machine learning research, right?
I've seen.
I'm going to get it wrong. It sounds sick, but like we're not gonna crack it in time.
We've seen Amnesia Fortnite do this, and that's a AAA studio with 2 weeks, and they were struggling.
Fair enough.
So it does feel quite high scope, as fun an idea as that is. How are we voting on Generations, do we think, boys?
I'm going to go for a +1 on that, in my opinion. I think we've come up with a lot of good ideas.
We could do something cool with that. I like the way you were going with the speedrunning thing. Also, I think if we were going to do our technical challenge, I bet it could be AWS,
Maybe. Yeah.
Not for like co-op, not for like continual multiplayer.
No.
But like, I think we could do editing the document or something.
We could give that a go.
Like async multiplayer sort of stuff.
Yeah, just like your session updates something and other people can pull from that when they open the game.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, a quick aside, are we going to try and do this one in HTML5? WebGL build?
It's just a click of a button. Yeah, no reason not to.
Okay, cool. Because we haven't done it yet.
No, we haven't, but I looked into it a while ago and it's really easy.
Does it impose any limitations?
Probably not, honestly. Just try and make the game not run like a piece of dog shit.
Yep.
Cool. I can do that.
Alright, next one.
You probably can do that, yeah.
We have one tool, many uses.
Unconventional Weapon.
Unconventional Weapon. Oh, fuck me. That was so much fun. Right, so this sounds great on the face of it. And it sounds like it'd be a great idea. But I'm really struggling to come up with many decent ways to use one tool in a multitude of different ways. Like, the default is like a rope. You can do a lot of different things with a rope.
I'm listening.
Like, you can use it to like grappling hook swing across things. You can use it to pull things towards you, lift things up, like, or tie things in place while you run under them and then unravel it again and stuff like that. Like, but is that? I don't know. I also don't know how you do a rope in Unity. That'd be fun.
Well, we'd have to work it out for the power line one anyway. So.
Yeah.
Well, the Powerline one, I was thinking we'd just be a bit cheeky with it. Actually, that's a nice way of approaching it though, because like when me and Matt were talking about this, we were saying like game design wise, that's basically just like make a mechanic, right? Because like a good mechanic can be used in multiple ways, and so it feels a bit whatever. But if you think of it very like in the real world, practically, like you can. What are tools that have multiple uses? Like a rope is kind of an interesting one in that regard. Like a game about a rope is kind of a cool idea.
I'm also thinking like an empty crate. You could use it to store and move things. You could use it to like float across water. You could use it to get up to ledges.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. Like, you can have like this unassuming box in the first scene, and there's just nothing else on screen, and you just walk up to it and like push it around. You can get into it, and like when you get into it, you like look like you're holding an oar, but there's nothing in your hands. You're like, what the hell are you doing? You need to go and find the oar, and then you can paddle across the stream and stuff. I like that.
That's fun. That's cool.
The little confused animation, like.
That's fun. I can imagine that. That's kind of cool.
I think this is maybe not as fleshed out as other ones, so should we say -1 for this?
I'm happy to -1 it.
But at least we have a start for it, because this is not a theme I liked, so I'm glad.
I'm going to be hungover when we wake up.
What was that, miss?
I'm going to be a little bit hungover when we wake up, but that was true.
Okay, next one, Will.
I was going to join you, but I don't think you'll be awake.
Automation, Will. I don't think me and Niz like this one just because it's very similar to the DLD we've just done, which is very annoying.
Oh, is it what?
Well,
yeah. I've been watching this guy on YouTube trying to make a automation game about like a logging camp. I don't know.
Dude, I was chatting with that guy on Discord like 2 days ago.
It looks like
the lumber mill guy. You talking about lumber mill? Yeah. BW Dev.
He's doing an amazing job.
He's doing so well. I messaged him just because when we were in the London Games Festival, I was like, dude, you should be in this. Like, you're making such good progress. That's so funny. Yeah, it's a really good devlog, isn't it?
It's really early on. He's sick.
It's so funny that you know that as well. I thought I just found a random guy in the wild. But
it's people like him who let me live vicariously through them on YouTube.
Same. He's doing I agree. He's doing a really killer job.
Yeah. But that's a massive undertaking. Even the basic mechanics are very difficult. I think we're going to struggle with anything like that. But what the bare bones of automation is automation fun?
It's Zachtronicsy, isn't it? Like your brain goes I think the most minimal thing that you come up with is conveyor belts, and then there will be 3,000 games with conveyor belts in them.
Did you ever play Armadillo Run? Oh, right, you're gonna have to go and YouTube this at some point. So it's basically a Rube Goldberg game, where you get given the tool set, and it's you start here, you've got to get here.
Yeah, just Bad Rats.
I don't know what Bad Rats is, but probably. So you could do something like that. I just don't think making a game that you don't have to play is particularly entertaining. Within the scope of what we can achieve in 3 days.
Do you want to pitch Colour Sorting Factory, Liz?
Oh yeah, yes, I do. So I had brief idea for this one. I had an idea a little while ago. It's actually for it was for Latvian Milk, I think. It was back when we were doing that, and it was if I was going to go on my own, I can't. It's not an unconventional weapon though. I think it was an idea I had, and I didn't. Anyway. Basically, the idea, you are the head of a fictional factory, and the job of the people in the factory is to sort colors. So it's kind of basically people will send you jobs and hey, we've got all these tiles, and we just can you just sort them into 2 batches, please? Which ones are red, which ones are blue? And so originally you just get a bunch of tiles, and it's that's red, that's blue, blue, red, red, blue, red, blue. You just got 2 options on the bottom of your screen. And then as the game progresses, the concept gets a bit more mechanical. So basically you're now hey, which one's closest to red and which one's closest to blue? And then you get some purple tiles that are leaning to red and leaning to blue. And then you're that's red, that one's blue. The complexity of the job difficulty basically is how, in the middle are they? And then people will be red, blue, or yellow, we're sending you 3 tiles now. And basically as you start, you're just clicking red, blue, yellow, or whatever from a bunch of hex values. So it's a very anti-colorblind game.
Colorblind discrimination.
Yeah, hugely discriminatory game. Very, very anti-disabled.
Will also even depend on color temperature of your monitor.
Yes. But then we'll give you a few examples. You get in the top right, this is blue, this is red, this is red. So
Okay. Yeah.
And then
the next level is where this gets good.
And then basically the idea of this is you expand out. It becomes a sort of management game where you can hire staff to take on jobs. So you have a incoming jobs list on the left. And this job will take 1 in-game hour. And I could do that. It's just sort 30 tiles, 1 in-game hour. That's a minute of real time. I can do 30 tiles in a minute, whatever. And then you can hire staff and be hey, I want you to do this. And you can train the staff and be basically the training is they show you a bunch of random examples and you have to say the color it's closest to. And then that, staff member is basically given a number being what was your margin of error? And that's my margin of error moving forward once you've trained me. And so you can bring staff on and show and assign them to good tasks, and they can maybe have a couple of preset stats this guy's really good at spotting reds. And you're okay, and then I'm going to give them so that margin of error is going to be halved on reds, and you basically it's a weird it's basically a hyper minimal management game where it's what's the least you can do, and it's just click what the color is, but then we just blow that. It's almost like a cookie clicker meets a management game.
I'm imagining cookie clicker meets pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Meets. So what about this is how we do the AWS thing? Once you level up, the people who are doing your bidding are the people who've only just opened the game.
Yeah, that's it. That's slick.
The people who are on the first level are doing this stuff so you can progress through the next levels.
That's quite funny. Hey, Tim.
I mean, you need a massive audience is the only problem. You just have to have bots that do it if there's no one else playing.
What I will say is if we get automation, actually, a way we could differentiate ourselves pretty easily is by trying to do something through AWS.
Yeah, I don't know how feasible that will end up being, but it's...
I think, well, the thing is, with AWS, with everyone editing a document is very feasible, right? We were having people freely accessing stuff in our S3. I could do that again in 2 hours and I could show you. It was so easy.
Okay.
So we could do something very, very minimal and asynchronous with that.
I feel like me and you are expecting a lot of Matt's expertise on this.
Well, Matt showed me how to do an AWS thing a while ago because I wanted to fiddle. And we didn't get as far as databases and stuff, but we got as far as I could download images onto my computer and store them in files on my computer from Amazon through Unity, which was really cool.
Pretty cool.
It was sick. I was very happy with it. And I have the project still. In fact, we shared with you both because it'll be part of my collab, presumably. I could just share it with you. You can look at the code. It's a bunch of copied code.
What was it called? Ms. Having a Fiddle.
Probably called Niz having a fiddle, yeah. So we could try, if we get to automation, it might be worth talking about doing something like that.
I think it's a -1. I think we're pulling at straws it.
It's a -1, but we should consider something like that.
Yeah.
Because even if we failed trying to do something lofty.
Yeah.
Next one, Will. How do you feel about lost signal?
Ooh, lost signal. First thoughts are a remote control car where you need possibly line of sight or something to control it.
It's kind of fun.
But the world they'll be moving obstacles. So
wait, that's really fun. I like the idea of a racing game where you're doing 2 races. You're racing the car and also you're controlling the guy that controls the car.
Yeah. I was also wondering if you could be using a drone to have the signal or just multiple cars that need to be chained. In line of sight to you.
A racing game where you're using WASD and arrows, and one of them controls the car, and one of them controls the dude that's trying to keep line of sight to the car. Is probably a really fun game.
That's very good.
I like that. Also,
that.
Maybe you need there could be mirrors and things if it's a direct line of sight for a beam of light that's going to be reflected at the thing you're trying to control.
Well, I like that a lot actually. Because it's fun for twin stick too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Problem is, what if people don't have gamepad set up? Most people won't.
Whilst and arrows.
Yeah.
I'm down with that, actually.
I'm actually really down with that. I don't know how we make any AI for that.
I mean, one of us can just do nothing but that.
Right?
I got some.
That's cool. I can totally imagine that you just have a little dotted line always drawn between you and the car.
Yeah.
And then your WASD is controlling the car, and it's a race. And then at the beginning, we just have different levels. At the beginning, you're just on a circular track, and you're standing in the middle, and you've always got direct line of sight to the car. And then the next level, we're by the way, you can use the arrows to move the guy. And you're like, okay, why would you need to do that? Even little things if you're controlling the guy and you can knock into another guy and you might lose
press
control.
space to shoulder bar.
You can go
do a little shot
in between other people and their cars.
Yeah, exactly. You can block their line of sight. Yeah. Whoa, this is actually a cool game.
Can I +1 this?
Yeah. I definitely want to make that game. That sounds really sick. It's super simple.
Should we
I like.
Head down to the next one. That's a good one, though. I like it.
Yeah, that is good, isn't it? Hey, that's so game jammy as well.
Next one, Will. One-time use. Or one-time use.
One-time use. For some reason, all I can think of was condoms.
Interesting.
Matt, I swear, also said condoms last time.
One-time use.
I don't think we liked this one.
Let me Google what we had.
Well, so you're going around and collecting things, like worms style.
Right.
And so you just have a finite resource of things. Again, you end up running. I'm picturing you start off with all these things you can do, but you can only use each of them once. But then you run into the problem of you're putting all the effort to make something that only happens once.
Yeah.
But
What's the problem is that as soon as you understand how something works, you can no longer interact with it. Like that's
what other things?
The other read
What things
had
in game design that are not undoable? What things work really well where it's like, right, you've done that now, you've got to stick with it? I can't think of any.
Yeah, like Momentum, like a fucking Angry Birds or something. Like as a commitment game, like you have to watch the events play out of the thing you did. But it's not. I don't know. I do remember not liking this one.
I mean, it could be something like a. Do you know in Rumble in Rocket League, there's a power up that makes their car like auto boost for like 20 seconds, and they can't not do it. It could just be that you have a racing game where, at some point during the race, you just ignite your nitro and you can't turn that off anymore. Like you've done it now, and you're way faster, but you're also way harder to control. So it's up to you at what point.
Like it's speed. Like you can increase your speed, but you can't go down once you've made the decision to go up, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just a booster that doesn't get turned off after you turn it on.
Right, I've had a sort of almost not terrible idea. Platformer, you have like a family of people who you can use to solve a level, and each of them only gets one life. But you might have like people of different shapes, sizes, different distance of jump, speed, things like that. So like, you want to try and get it done like with whichever one you think is going to be the most effective. But if you don't use that, so like it'll be doable with all of the characters, but it'll be a lot easier with some of them. But like, if you had the one that could jump really far the first time, and then they died because you weren't expecting something, like now you've got to use the great big fat guy who can only walk like really slow.
Is that a game where you could potentially just like inevitably doom yourself on level 1 without realizing it, type thing?
Yeah, I guess you'd have to have an unlimited amount of one-time use things, which isn't particularly one-time.
That's multiple time use. Hey? What was the theme? Many time use.
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
The other reading we had of it, and it's a bit of a stretch, but you could interpret it as you can only use it at a specific time. So you have an item that can only be used when the clock hand is at a certain position.
Like a website that's like, come back at 2:45 tomorrow, and then you can play our game.
And it's just a Mario clone, but you can only play it at exactly 2:45.
It's not even Mario.
That's kind of fun.
It's Flappy Bird. No, I don't like it. I can't see anyone going for that.
Next one, Will, we have Containment.
Oh. So obviously the inevitable COVID-related games.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
So like building barriers. So you've got things that are like Game of Life sort of style things, zooming around, and you've got to pen them in. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but
okay.
That you want to do. What do you want to? Yeah, no, not pulling up huge amounts of great ideas for this one, or any at all.
We mentioned two things. The simpler idea is you're like trying to keep people out of a crime scene. So, you've got the cordoned off area and all the crowds are forming, and you're actually trying to make sure that they're not like breaching the barriers of an active crime scene.
Okay.
Not sure what the gameplay is for that, but as a
that gameplay has been done in a different context for other things. I just can't think of what. That constantly trying to put your finger in the hole because there's a leak sort of thing.
Yeah. The other one is an idea from previous LDs. It's a bit higher scope, but with three of us, maybe it's more achievable. But kind of like a Pokemon ripoff, but with sort of some slightly weird D&D mechanics. So top-down, turn-based, grid-based combat, where you find creatures that have specific behaviors, and you have to try and understand their behavior and use your skills to try and capture them, a la Pokemon. by fencing them in. So you put down like 3 fence posts that form this like triangular or like catchment area, and you have to try and get them in that. A lot of the skills and moves and stuff that you'd be doing are very like movement based, so you're trying to like lock them down or shove them to certain squares, or like magnetize them or whatever, and they're trying to do the same to you, like push you away or like throw you to a certain point. Maybe there's health and damage and stuff in there as well, but yeah, you're trying to like catch all these different creatures in a net by playing off their behaviors.
Yeah. Actually, we talk about nets. We talk about Ape Escape often. Containment does work for any game where you are trying to catch something, I guess.
Yeah.
I want to remake Ape Escape every day of my life. You fucking Paprika.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Putting things in pens. Although that said, the oft-touted D&D Pokemon game is something I'm very, very keen to work on. We do need to GDD what that is, because we've talked about it. It's another one of those games that we've probably had like 4 or 5 unique ideas of.
I think I have a pretty clear idea of what that game is.
Yeah, you said the idea in my brain, the idea that you have about this game is massively overscoped. So maybe. I presume it is not. Or if it is, then we need to like make a new version of it.
Yeah, it may well be pretty high scope. Yeah.
It's a -1 from me, boys.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is for me too. What do you think?
I'm not inspired, and I think you need to be. I like the sound of this one. Probably, definitely a platformer, but you get to decide how you are divided. So you become your physics object be divided into whatever two-shaped things you want out of that. So if you need a little part of you to run through the little narrow tunnel to press the button while the big guy jumps over the top, sort of thing.
Okay.
So a non-fixed division of the one thing into 2 smaller ones to go back and do the thing. So Tale of Two Brothers has 2 thumbstick controls, so you'd have the two people on each thumbstick.
Okay.
I quite like that.
I did a game jam while I was at the NFTS where you did simultaneous character control called Jelly Boys. I don't know if you ever played it or saw it. And it didn't work very well. Well, I don't know. All I will say is if we go down that route, because it sounds interesting, there's probably a few things I would want to avoid. It is very hard to focus on 2 things at once. Tale of Two Brothers did a pretty good job. And I think part of it is because you're very close to each other all the time.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you just do that.
The movement
you don't have
is also very...
2 things at once.
No, the way I did it previously, you were 2 people in 2 different places, and it was almost impossible. Your brain is just not designed to consider that.
In Brothers, you're doing rarely
Brothers Tale of Two Sons, that's the name of the game. I knew he'd fucked it up. I couldn't remember what the right one was.
What did I say?
A Tale of Two Brothers.
So there's a Nintendo Switch game where there's 2 characters. I've only played the demo, but it's pretty. Yeah. Well, we were talking about this a few days ago. Yeah, that's a thing.
My mate Catherine is the lead artist on that game. How fucking sick is that?
That's pretty sick. Yeah.
One of the big things about Split in 2 is that it works for one of mine is his ongoing kind of favourite LD ideas. And this is so old.
Oh yeah!
You might even be aware of this one, Will, I'm not sure. This may have been a Latvian Milk idea for one of the other shortlisted themes. It may well go back that far. But the idea of a tower climbing platformer, where you have 2 towers side by side, 2 characters, 1 in each tower, who perfectly both match your movements. They mirror each other perfectly. But only one of them is active at a time, and you can switch between them at any time. So one is transients can move through objects, and the platforms in the 2 towers are not the same. They are different as you go up. So one of them doesn't take damage, isn't affected by gravity, can go through walls, and you can just basically hot switch at any time as to which character is the one that's ghosted and which one is physically in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been sitting on this idea for a while. I think because it feels really nicely scoped for a jam.
And it just sounds really
Isn't it
good.
just a tower climber with 1 character?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I guess it's just tower climber where occasionally to go faster or to avoid impassable obstacles, you have to consider something else that's been there for a while.
Because the obstacles are different in the two towers, there will be obvious benefits to hot switching at given times. Like if an enemy,
Yeah, but just switch to the other one, then it may as well just have been one tower without the obstacles.
Well, but there'll be other obstacles on that tower. So, like, you might hot switch out of a fight that you're getting into in one tower, but even though you were about to take damage there, you're hot switching into another one where now there's no platform below you.
Okay.
So now you need to deal with that.
Got muddled.
So
what are you smoking at?
I think this is the one.
Yeah. Okay. I got bored with that.
I think it's an easy sell.
Yeah, and I think this is the last theme. Looking at the stream, maybe one more.
Wait, really? We're on 20 already.
It might be 16. The theme here is summoning. Will.
Yeah, the last one. Summoning.
It is 16. Yeah.
First up, Teslas.
Teslas? Well, like bringing your car to you?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not where my brain had gone.
it's Tesla autopilot summoning, except you've got to control the car from your phone, and it's fucking miles away, and you can't see it.
Okay.
Summoning what? Summoning, you can summon an awful lot of things.
You could, yeah.
I got nothing. What did you guys come up with?
Matt has a good one for this.
Hey, Rubik's.
Hey, Rubik's! We were talking about you earlier. I was saying you're one of the OGs.
You're old
One of
guard.
the big dogs of the old guard, absolutely.
Summoning, bit of an off-the-wall idea compared to some of the other things that we tend to pitch, but you're summoning like elementals, like motes, some sort of like mystical creature, and you have to fight them by casting magic spells or like summoning magic spells, if you like. And you can type in any word that you want to cast your spell. And words have effects on certain types of enemies in different ways. So certain enemies have properties where they're weak to certain kinds of word. So an enemy might be weak to words that have a double letter in them, or weak to words with more vowels in them, or weak to words that are adjectives.
Do you ever play Bookworm Adventure?
Yeah, I prefer normal Bookworm to Bookworm Adventure, but yeah.
Not you, well, but yeah. Okay, it's a take on a pretty good game from like I think it's a PopCap, right? It's like early 2000s PopCap.
Yeah.
They were so sick, man. PopCap had the fucking casual market cornered.
Oh yeah.
They were really good. I really liked it. It was in the era as well when we were all really shitty about mobile games. And then PopCap were like, you can make casual games that are like way better than regular games, right? And they were like right every time. Anyway, yeah, like what Matt was pitching is basically it's emergent gameplay discovery of a bunch of rules we've written around words. So it's wordplay. You have to follow the rules of grammar and dictionaries and stuff. And Bookworm did this a little bit as well. But in Bookworm, you could get objects that were like every Z you use does more damage, whereas in this one, you're kind of discovering dynamically what like letter combinations and things can help you do.
Yeah, it's up to you.
It's probably hard to think about if you haven't thought about it, if you haven't played Bookworm.
But
Yeah.
You might have like you might realize that fire motes are particularly weak to double letters, and water motes are particularly weak to vowels or something like that. And then when you find the steam mote, which has water and fire elements within it, you're like, okay, so now I need to try and think of a good word that has like double vowels in it, because that's going to do particularly well here.
I'm going to link you Bookworm. I'm not suggesting that aesthetically we're similar, but just so you can see, it's going in the Discord.
But yeah, just words having certain properties and doing particular things particularly against certain enemies, and you have to try and work out what those rules are. Is basically the whole
Yeah, letter combinations and whatever else we can do with whatever dictionary we pull, I guess. Like, that's a verb. Oh, okay.
I quite like that.
Yeah, there's something to that I really like. We almost ended up doing this, or we had, like, maybe you had the idea for it, either Waver or while alive. It was sitting in the pile.
Yeah, it was a fairly
I think it was
recent one.
Waver.
Yeah, I think so.
And I remember being a bit gutted we couldn't work on it.
Is that a +1, do we think? Do we like that?
It's at least a 0.
Yeah.
0?
Yeah.
So these are final votes.
Oh, I didn't get to vote on that one because it's all been locked in. Oh well.
Oh, well, we were going to, I guess we were.
It literally doesn't matter. But here we go, folks.
These are our final votes.
And
And now we just have to wait for 25 minutes for Mike Kasperzak to grace us with his glory.
There it is.
If they're all locked in, surely we should have the results.
Well, I guess they need to be counted by the very fast man.
The man with lots of fingers.
Yeah.
The last 22 minutes ago, there's a picture of Mike, and he's looking at the votes coming in. I don't think that's a real picture. Okay, so what did we vote? What did we vote down? Give us the rundown, Matt.
So we have
let's...
what was that one? Sorry.
I just said, yeah, let's go through.
Cool. We've got greens on leave something behind.
Yep.
Which is trailing a power line from one place to another. Did we say anything else for that?
Yeah.
Where you leave your previous state for the next run through.
Yeah.
We voted it up, which makes me think we had another idea for it also.
I've forgotten. Are we
I'm happy to pitch out the way that walking around and drag a thing behind you game works.
About 25 minutes until final theme, Rubik's. So we voted up expansion here?
Yes, definitely. I love
Hexagons. I think that's the one I want to work on. I don't know if we had the one we wanted to work on before. Actually, stuck in the in a loop, we basically did want to make our version of Whatever Live.
Yeah.
We got absolutely shafted on Whatever.
We voted up Hidden World for similar things to expansion.
I was going to say expansion and Hidden World I think are the same game. I think if we get that, we make a top-down shooter with a hex grid where you get the loot you get is land that you put down.
Mm-hmm. I also still really love the idea of doing the echolocation thing.
Yeah, definitely worth a look at, like, mechanically, see how we can make that into a full-fledged thing.
I mean, even without doing shadery stuff, the super hacky of raycasting and putting despawning decals on things to make them visible.
You can do that. My mate Dave made a game in NFTS first year, and it was basically like a Theseus. I keep getting this wrong. Theseus and the Minotaur maze where you were blind and you basically had like sight cones in that like very old-fashioned way of like, you know, you got a cone. And it took him a while to crack it. And I will say, like, once you've got that down, that is more. It's almost more of an aesthetic choice than it is a mechanical choice. Like, it's cool to do that, but what are the ways in which you build a game around that being the limitation? You almost have to do another design pass.
Yeah,
because he just made a fucking maze and it was actually pretty boring. I don't think he'll hate me for saying that. We were in first year; it was like the second project he ever made. But like I think like in order to get that right, we then have to be like, okay, what's the thing that is uniquely cool about being able to do this with this mechanic?
So you know, sniper when the enemies have seen you, and it leaves like a glowing shell of where you were.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So like you'll have that with the enemies. You'll have the echo of where they were. And
I think Dave also had that in his maze, and it was really boring. But yes, I'm not sure right off the idea. I just like if we end up doing that, happy to go down that road. But we need to.
I remembered the name of the Steam game I was thinking of earlier. I think it's called Noise Hunters, and it's a stealth game, and you can do like an audio ping to see your surroundings, but the downside to that is that the enemies can hear it.
I think it would be a really cool game if you weren't trying to avoid something. If you were trying to hunt something with that could be more interesting. Because I can imagine getting like snapshots that are like a second apart, where you can see something's motion and then be able to predict where it's going to be in the next second and intercept it. Is more interesting than you leaving the trails of motion. Because it's almost like you're not the person interacting with the most interesting part of that mechanic if you're hiding.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine doing something like that where you're like a bat trying to like do bat shit, you know. What's that?
Yeah,
but yeah,
exactly what I had in mind. So never mind.
Well, let's have a look, because it's not like we can't do it. We've ripped off everything, so we can rip off another thing. I wanted to rip off Ape Escape.
The third person in our team this time, Rubik's, is Will. Will is someone I went to high school with and have been in touch with ever since.
And my best friend.
The first ever Ludum Dare we took part in was with Will, which is 6 Ludum Dares ago.
I'm gonna take that statement one step further and say the first Ludum Dare we ever did was Will's. Will secretly ran that one. It's quite remarkable, actually.
Recent to me than I think it feels to either of you two.
Yeah,
On account
it
of
feels like eons ago. Me and Matt have made quite a lot of progress since then. We pitched a game to publishers since then.
behind.
We've been rejected by publishers since then.
Yeah, we've been turned down by some very wealthy people since then.
You got to be in the race.
Absolutely, dude. I'm proud of us.
I'm very proud of you.
Yeah.
We didn't get rain. Fuck! I never get to. There was a couple of themes in the Big 48. I was so psyched to make a game on. So Matt, basically, rain was one of them, and Matt's pitch was like, rain isn't necessarily water. Like it can rain, like raining cats and dogs. Like stuff falling is effectively rain. And we were talking about a game. I'm so disappointed that we're not making this game, but basically it was like stuff is falling, and it's like just random objects, like a traffic cone, a bench, a house, whatever. And you're trying to, like, you can basically, like, slow down time within an area, maybe, or maybe, like, sometimes slow, sometimes fast. And you're jumping up the things to, like, climb up to a peak, get to the moon.
But, like, cluster truck with random objects.
Exactly! That's how we pitched it. Cluster truck with random shit. And we're talking about, like, the ways in which that's interesting. Like, I can imagine, like, it being phased, where, like, things are very slow. And then you can jump up them, but then like every 10 seconds things go like boom, and you have to take shelter because things are just kind of like wah, 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 like blasting into the ground, blowing up like big like fucking like dirt clumps and stuff. And then also like one of the things I was saying is like one of the things that obviously happens is like you jump from like a bench to a house, go through the front door, climb the steps, jump out of the, you know what I mean? Like we could have so much fun with that mechanic. I'm so pissed we're not making that. I really want to make that game. Cluster Truck is such a fucking simple, good idea. Like, let's do the next logical step.
In 3 days.
That would have been so good. I still kind of want to make that. We can make it with a grappling hook and we'll do it over the course of a month.
I do like the sound of that. That sounds really good.
Doesn't it?
Our next vote up was Generations. We kind of said a few things for this, really.
There were lots of ideas for Generations.
Mine was the speedrun platformer or racer where you get to like overwrite a smaller and smaller chunk of your run as you get closer to the end. I think we all sort of said one for this. What were your guys' ones?
I can't remember what mine was. Rushing double platformer, but that already.
I just remember saying that we could do something fun with AWS.
That's right. Yeah.
Like
a Chinese
to leave something behind for someone else to inherit would be a very doable technical challenge for us, I think.
Yeah. So there's a couple things there.
I think we might have to rewatch this stream.
I've definitely done that before in Ludum Dare to find out something that I said. Lost Signal, which we're big fans of Will's idea for this one.
Oh, the fucking RC car game. I'd be so psyched to make that game. That sounds sick.
Yeah, I would love that.
It's so jam scope, and it's so like I can imagine exactly how that would work. Oh, I really want to make that game. I hope this one wins. This is actually this is my pick.
I can totally see Lost Signal being the theme as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what the slightly upsetting me about this? I spent like 5 minutes shitting on making driving physics, and then pitched a really good idea for a driving game.
We'll make something cool.
No, I do really like the idea of that. Making the losing of the signal interesting and not frustrating will be a very important.
Well, I think that's the thing, though. It's like when you lose the signal, the car becomes uninteresting, and at the exact same moment, the controlling the person becomes interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like you're always doing something.
But like you could be.
No
like,
one will do this either. It's such a unique fucking.
You have to get the guy to run onto a platform so that he's going alongside the car. Otherwise, you're like running like headless chicken alongside.
Yeah, well, you just have exactly. You have obstacles that prevent you from following the car at a certain point, and you need to like go around and do like a lap. And also, I can imagine like the speedrun strats for that being really interesting. Like, where do I start? Also, like the car presumably. When it like loses signal, it's still got a little bit of forward momentum, and maybe you can like zip and pick it up again, like with a little bit of lost signal, like, and then like blocking other people's signal, having other people try and block your signal.
You can get it past just little obstacles by just like letting the momentum carry it past.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to make this game. This one sounds really legit.
Speaking of really legit ideas that I'd like to work on as well, the final thing we voted up is split in two, and I think our Towers game is actually very cool.
Yes, Towers game is very cool. We're going to have to explain it properly to Will, I guess, again, or like show you a drawing or something. But I think this is something
I got more on board with it when it became... So in my head, I had like 2 side-by-side Jenga towers. And it was like, that was it. But it could have just been one Jenga tower and you just didn't switch. But then the whole like... When you switch, you might just fall all the way back down on the other side. In order to...
They are asymmetrical Jenga towers, but you are moving symmetrically. So sometimes the guy who is in the ghost realm is standing on thin air, but that doesn't matter because he's in the ghost realm. And then sometimes in order to do a jump, you might want to like jump out towards nothing and then switch into someone that's going to land on something.
It is just Doodle Jump, where you're controlling 2 games of Doodle Jump simultaneously, but only one of the characters interacts with the world.
Yeah, and one of them gets a free pass.
Yeah. But that is all of the ones we voted up, and I want to say in the last 13 minutes or so, shall we make our guesses as to which theme we think will be voted on?
Yeah. We'll give top 3, right? That's how we did it last time.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to edit the page source to write our names onto the themes we think, so just go with one.
Oh, come on! Someone's been learning how to edit programmatic. Yeah, go on, that's fine.
Okay. Will, what are you reckoning? What do you think is going to be the voted theme here?
The number 1, I feel, is probably going to be split in 2.
You think people are going to like that one?
It just sounds good. It already sounds like a game you could buy, just the category title. Okay. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who've just clicked that without really thinking about it.
You know what else is split into? A racing game where you play as a car and a guy. Guys, I've made my mind up and know what I want to work on.
What do you reckon, Ness?
I think Will's got a good point. I think Split in Two has a good shout at being... I've got... The thing is, I have 3 picks. I reckon if we're going to do 3 picks, I think Split in Two stands a good chance. Yep. I think Hidden World probably stands a good chance. And I think Lost Signal stands a good chance.
Lost Signal sounds...
It's just that they're like... It depends. This is the thing. For if people did what we did and looked at all the previous Ludum Dares, I think we'd know the winners. But I think some people just come in for the first time and they're teenagers who just like look at like, you know, Shelter and they're like, okay, cool. But like, I think we've got a kind of tiredness that is like the fresh sounding ones are probably Split in Two sounds kind of fresh and it's got that kind of like easy to explain vibe. Lost Signal is very fresh and Hidden World isn't that fresh, but I think it's very evocative. Yeah. Like in terms of its imagery, like people will want to make like Secret Garden style games, and that's cool. So my 3, I don't know which one I think is going to win. Actually, you know what? Based on what I just said, I think Hidden World is my pick for the win because if it's just new people coming in, that one sounds the most fun.
Okay, so Will, you're saying Split in Two? Okay.
Oh, 10 minutes. It's exciting. It I feel a bit nervous because it's like this is going to seal my fate for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
I'm going to be fucking crunching over whatever is about to pop up.
I am going to go with Lost Signal here, I think. That's my guess.
Oh, I fucking hope so. That's the game I want to make. So, like, sometimes someone says something, you're like, that's just so... It's, like, so Ludum Dare, and I want to play the game.
Alright, if you have a look at the stream...
Oh, Quill18 is streaming. Quill is legit. I'm actually a subscriber.
There's 1,000 people watching that stream right now.
He's really cool. In fact, when I was doing Causeway, I was watching his stuff because he was talking about hexagonal pathfinding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that guy, me and him go way back.
Does he know you've been stalking him?
Yeah. Did I tell you when I was in Copenhagen and we were doing our Unity for Humanity thing? There was a guy there, and he came over to play the project we were on, and I was looking at we were all wearing name tags. I was looking at his name tag and I was like, I can't remember his name now, which is really annoying. But it was something loosely East European, like Mariusz Dvorak or whatever. And I was looking at his name and I was like, fuck, like, you sound super familiar. And I was like, oh shit, I know who you are. You're the guy who made the A-star pathfinding algorithm plugin that I use in Unity. And he was like, yeah, that's me. Like, I actually should be able to remember his name because I still use it occasionally. Anyway, it was like, you're like a plugin guy. And he's like, yeah, that's me, whatever. And I was like, yeah, I made a game with that last year. It was a game called Causeway. In fact, I left a message on your forum saying that you'd calculated he'd done hexagonal units. He'd done all of his units evenly. Yeah. And I was like, 1 meter did not equal 1 unit in the hexagon thing, and it was really throwing me off. Yeah. And I left a comment on it, and he was like, I remember you, because you were right! And I was like, yeah! I thought so! It's genuinely so good.
They say never meet your heroes.
Was this the man who made the A-star pathfinding algorithm?
Well, I'm going to hit his name. He's actually...
I genuinely believed you were about to say, and he came over and tapped on your shoulder and went, is that a magnetic up?
His name's Aaron Granberg. It's like such a popular plugin. It's not that East European sounding in Hunter. But yeah, no. But he remembered me from the forums. It's like, I remember you, you little fucker. You called me out and you were right. And I was like...
Mariusz Dvorak.
Well, that was Aaron Granberg. Mariusz Dvorak. We've got 8 minutes and I need a wee.
Alright.
Oh, timing.
Thank you, I thought so too.
I'm going to have to pee and get a beverage just for the reveal.
Yeah.
Counteract the coffee before bed.
Alright, for folks watching, so the plan probably here is that obviously we'll stick around for the theme reveal, see what gets picked. We'll finalise the idea that we think we're going to work on, maybe try and get some quick sort of design document sketched up, just initial ideas. I plan on just going to bed pretty much straight after that. I think Niz and Will are going to do the same, because something that I found really helpful the last couple LDs was, number one, getting proper sleep. It's something I didn't do the first couple LDs, and it just helps. I was like, oh, as much dev time as possible, no sleep till Tuesday. But it's just when you're that tired, it's counterintuitive. Like, you do better with less dev time, but actually being awake for it. So, number one, it's better sleep. Number two, just like it's quite a good sort of strategic timing, like tactical period of time to go to bed. Because just sleeping on the idea is really helpful. Like, it just lets you kind of consider it while you're falling asleep and while you're waking up. You can be thinking about your ideas just, while you're doing things that you're going to need to do at some point anyway, like grab your shower, get your breakfast, etc., etc. So just sleeping on the idea, I actually have found on the last couple of LDs to be a really helpful thing to do. So that's probably what we'll be up to. Decide what we actually are making, and then all go to bed. Have a think about things to do with the idea that we've decided on, and reconvene on Saturday morning for proper day one of Ludum Dare. Yo, you back?
I am.
Howdy.
One moment.
There's a couple other themes here that I could maybe see being picked. Like maybe Deeper and Deeper. Maybe Shelter.
Yeah, I can imagine Deeper and Deeper also.
It really... I don't know whether it necessarily surprises me, but it certainly saddens me that something like Automation can get shortlisted here. Like, it's already not good, and last time was stuck in a loop.
Yeah.
Oi, oi.
Anyway,
Wait. We're not streaming anymore.
yeah, we're streaming.
Okay. Just Will also left.
No, it's beverage time. Ready for the reveal.
What are you drinking, bud?
Cheeky Talisker.
Ooh, you got lime in your Talisker.
What's a Talisker?
Oh, okay. It just looked kind of green. It's a Scotch. It's a single malt.
It's so good.
What is that? It's not peaty. What's the opposite? It's sort of like a medium. It's nice.
Yeah, it's so I've got a couple of like quite boring non-peaty ones because I'm quite new to Scotch and I was quite like
I don't like peaty whiskies.
this is just
interesting.
the right amount. It's like ooh, yeah, it's good. It's nice. This is like the only bottle I've finished. This was it.
I like sweeter whiskies because I'm kind of a puss. I like Jura.
I was literally about to say Jura. That was my first bottle on recommendation from a friend, and it slipped down an absolute treat in like 3 days.
It's good of it. It's easy.
Yeah, good times.
I like
It was
bourbon a
so.
lot.
We went on like a week staycation to Northumberland, and we had like this converted barn with a wood burning fire, sat there drinking Majora. Oh, it was bliss.
It is bliss.
Little bit of COVID bliss.
Oh, well, when you're coming down then? You almost came down, like, today.
I should have just done it. I should have just sodded it.
It would have been fun. We would have had a good time.
We would, but next time.
But you know what? Now, the benefit of you coming down next time is that we can get way more drunk because we don't have this.
I need to figure out a way / build a more portable computer. Because, like, one of the other things that, like, I'm kind of glad I'm here is I still have my workstation.
Yeah.
Game dev on a laptop isn't the one. Oh my god, 3 minutes.
So tomorrow, when you first start streaming, when you first get on your computers, make sure you're live on Twitch, and then I'll be able to grab your. What was that? Sorry.
Before we tell you to do it on the thing.
Yeah, that's fine. You don't need to let me know whether you're live or not. Like, I'll just use the sources. But yeah, get on Twitch. If you need to restart your Twitch streams at any point during the day, let me know because I'll need to reset OBS up for that.
No worries.
Okay.
Where does it pop up?
Where's what pop up? The theme? Usually on Mike Kasperzak's Twitter, 20 minutes after it's supposed to have been announced.
Yeah, it's.
Why did it say it starts in an hour? Do they announce it an hour before it starts?
I think you need to refresh the page.
Roger. Oh yeah, there you go.
It will say on the site, but it usually just goes down because everyone's trying to find out.
Yeah, and then usually like, oh guys, I can't even see it now. And then 10 minutes later, you usually find out because you search hashtag Ludum Dare and someone's like, I've just seen it, and it's actually before Mike has even announced it. Ludum Dare, honestly, it is a mess of a game jam. Oh, yeah. It's just my favorite. I just love it.
It's got that charm.
Yeah, there's something about it, and we've been here since, was it 37, 36?
36, I think, yeah.
I'm on 48 now.
Latvian Milk? Wasn't that even before 36? Was that not like 32 or 34?
Well, there's a gun in it.
Was it LD32?
What's the gun called? Because it's called the something GL32 or whatever. GL30. It can't be 32.
Think it?
Will would have been a baby.
because
It's
Matt's so
32.
much older than me.
No, I know, but you.
It is 32.
Wow, 32. We've been here for, well, we didn't do all of them, but we're still doing it 16 later.
I had a brief hiatus.
You're back now.
I'm a lot more qualified, just not for this.
Half a minute. So our guesses as to what we think the theme is going to be are on screen.
I gotta say, Deeper and Deeper, I think, is also a solid guess, because it's another one that feels just outside of the norm.
I need to send you a link to that fractal thing that I was describing.
If Deeper and Deeper wins, we can't do the
Not just at the minute, because we
RC
have
car game.
1 second, 0 seconds, and the theme should be up right now.
Go on, tell
Get
me.
those tabs refreshed.
I'm refreshing it.
Okay, I usually press the tweet button manually, but I've queued up the theme announcement. Please work, Twitter, #LDJam. That was 6 minutes ago. It doesn't appear to have worked, Mike. He just never quite gets it, does he?
The theme is Deeper and Deeper.
It is Deeper and Deeper.
No way! Okay.
Damn it.
Okay, so Deeper and Deeper is Fishy Lake, potentially.
Okay, actually.
Okay.
Potentially, it
Okay.
doesn't have to be, but...
I just got to spend a little minute getting myself de-psyched about making the RC car game.
I know.
Unfortunately, I
hate
can't think of a
games
way to
like
make it to...
RC submarine.
RC fishing. Okay, no, because Fishy Lake is actually a pretty sick idea.
Okay, so let's try and throw some ideas out for just a lot of it's going to be about emergent gameplay mechanics, I think. So things that feel like they just work for a normal fishing sim, but then you can do weird things with. So, for example, when you have a grid-based inventory and you catch fish, and they go in your inventory, and you can go and sell them to the guy at the bait and tackle shop. But you can do things like smuggle certain fishing rods to certain points on the lake. You're not supposed to fly fish at this area; it's just a bait fishing spot. But you can if you've got a folding fly fishing rod, you can stick that in your bag and sneak it to a spot you shouldn't have it in, and you can catch weird things with that. So lots of emergent.
Yes. There's a dedicated fly fishing area, dedicated cage fishing area, dedicated what do you call them? Weight fishing, sink fishing.
Do you physically carry your rod, and your rod's too long to take through to this area?
Yeah, you equip your rod or your cage, but you could choose sneakily to actually put it in your bag, and that's not maybe an obvious thing that you would think to do, but it is an option when you're at home that you can put a rod in your bag and sneak it in.
I feel like people just think that the game's broken.
Maybe, yeah, but then
this is a tough one for a jam because we need to get the reveal in.
Yeah.
You're not in italics supposed to fly fish in this area.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to work out how this one plays because there's lots of different ways you can do a fishing game. I remember when I was talking to you, I had a pretty fun idea for a fishing mechanic, but I think we need to simplify.
Okay.
And just go to something. So actually, it's really funny. Do you guys know Dangerously Funny on YouTube?
No.
Have a look. He's fun 20-minute YouTube videos. He just over the last 3 days did a bunch of flash fishing games where you basically cast a line, and there was one where you play as a cat and you cast a line and you watch the line sink under the water, and you pull it up and you try and get things on the way, kind of like a ridiculous fishing, I guess.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. Yeah.
So something like that might not be a bad shout mechanically.
The thing that I was thinking in my pitch for this is that you wouldn't really see what was under the water. The whole point is that you should be able to work all these clues.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm on board with that as well.
Yeah.
I think I'm on board with that as well. So the other fishing game he did, you're playing as a little Inuit, and you just basically say the depth you're fishing at.
Yeah.
And then cast down to that. So I do like the idea of my favourite hyper minimal fishing mechanic is probably from Stardew Valley, with the one where you're trying to keep the fish in the bar. Do you guys know that one?
I think roughly I know what you mean, and I'm kind of down to do something similar.
Tony Hawk.
Do you know that one?
Is it like doing a manual on Tony Hawk?
I think
like
it is
a balance
actually.
beam
It's
almost.
been a while since I've tried to do manual anti-hawk, but I think it's pretty similar. Yeah, you have like a bar that you're trying to keep a dot in, and the dot's moving up and down, and you are like in a slightly awkward control of the bar. In Stardew, you basically pressing A, kind of like does like a Flappy Bird with the bar, so you've got like less direct control. It's kind of a fun way of doing it.
It's almost like balance beams and Mirror's Edge type thing, right? It's just like you've got forces fighting you from both directions, and you have to stay, in the spot that you need to be in. Yeah, I'm down to do something like that. My hesitation for making this game outside of Jam, which is something that was considered at one point, was just that I couldn't settle on a fishing idea that I like, but I'll go for whatever to just get the ball rolling, really. So yeah, I'm down to just do that.
At what point are we going deeper? How early are we going to play this card? Because I'm cognizant that most people are going to play it for about 10 minutes. And if they haven't got to the bit where it gets deeper, they're going to be like, well, this didn't do it.
So
they just sort of walk.
I don't know if we care, because a game doesn't necessarily have to be in theme, technically speaking, and ours actually is. And the fact that some people might not see that, I don't know if I care as much about that as just.
I think Deeper and Deeper works purely thematically as well. There's a game about fishing, which is in the deeps, and the game has a hidden depth to it. That's fine.
Yeah.
So let's say the fishing mechanic is pretty loosely, you cast a line out. Where that line goes and what it's capable of catching is based on the equipped upgrades. Yep. We have a series of things that exist in those spaces within a certain range, and you can fish those things up. And then we're building a narrative, and we're trying to work out what the game screens look like. So in my head, it was very much like one of those old Newgroundsy games where you're moving between areas.
Yeah, I guess I kind of had that in mind as well.
You're not like controlling a character with WASD ever.
Maybe not. I guess one of the things I had in mind is almost like the Final Fantasy VII fixed camera type thing. So you have a fixed camera on the sort of lane leading up to the lakefront, and that has the bait and tackle shop on it. It has the grinder for anything you want to chuck away.
Okay.
And then once you go through the gate at the lakefront, like a new fixed camera angle.
I like that. I think there's a bit more scope in there to work with two developers as well, and give me a bit more freedom on the art.
Yeah.
Because I guess what we're doing is I'm building a 3D environment, and we're just doing some WAS control. You can, and also when you're on the shore, maybe moving to different parts of the shore. Okay, I want to work out how we scope this one down enough. We need to write some story beats out about things that you can find. What's the minimum required to find before you've got to the key bits.
One thing we were talking about was finding almost some of you start pulling up fish that are weirdly diseased, and that's a hint that something weird is going on.
I think my first clue, if I could design a clue, would be the fishing up an old boot, and that is someone's boot. Because I think fishing up an old boot is very classically fishing game you failed.
Fishing up an old boot, and it contains a foot.
Yeah. Well, a fun thing to do would be maybe when you fish something up, we haven't buried things, you get a little reveal of it. If we're doing the game in 3D, we could just make a 3D mesh that you can rotate around. And then maybe you can look at the boot, and it's got someone's name written on a tag on the back or something.
Andy.
Andy. It's Woody's boot.
But yeah, the fact that people might not even bother spinning it round because it's just a boot, and it's annoying. I'll get that out of here. I'm trying to fish. But if you do spin it around, there is actually just a severed.
So we need to write out some kind of. I think the most basic story I can imagine here is that one of the people, hyper minimal for game jam. Maybe there's only one fishing spot. If there's only one fishing spot, how can you convey things? The guy that runs the lodge is a baddie, and he's been doing baddie things, and you can. You can find evidence of baddie things he's done, dead people.
He's been feeding
dead fishermen. I don't know.
He's been feeding people to the Lovecraftian horror in the lake to keep it epic.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Oh,
there's Lovecraftian horror in the lake. He's been feeding people to the Lovecraftian horror in the lake.
Yep.
You might be the next person there. Maybe he's done it during every full moon or something, and there's a reason that you've not been fed in immediately.
Yeah.
And then there is, I think the other twist is, there's someone out in on an island in the lake.
Yeah.
He tried to feed me in, but I swam in.
Yeah.
I daren't swim back to shore because I know he'll get me again.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Please
message in a
help me,
bottle.
and you have to be able to
Yes, there's some way to
message
find
in a bottle.
Yeah. Which
some way to find a message in a bottle, and then some way to try and like poison the guy.
Yeah, like you could trick him and feed him a poison fish that he doesn't realize is poison or something like that.
Something like that. That's like probably the most minimal narrative scope of that game.
Yeah.
In my head, the game, like color grading wise, starts off really colorful, and the more and more horrors you find, the more grayscale it gets.
Nice.
Yeah. We do something like Sinister. We pull out like dark blues.
Yeah.
His eyes get like yellower.
And that's like super easy as well with just like processing. Like just start changing color grading and stuff. Can I just double check? Are you guys down with the idea of trying to sort of make a game that could stand on its own if you didn't find this, or do we just make this part of the required storyline?
I mean, like the basic. How many fishing games have you played? Like, there's one in VR called Bait, and it's sort of like the basic thing. You have different ponds that you can fish in, where you catch different kinds of fish. There are different sorts of equipment that are better for different sorts of fish, and like that is a thing in and of itself.
Right.
You're playing it for the satisfaction of the achievement. So the fight to catch the fish needs to be difficult, but varying levels of difficulty depending on if you've got the right equipment. Like that is all. I mean, it's a lot of assets, but like you're just plugging in different numbers into a basic fishing rod class sort of thing.
It's like, I do love the idea of the first 5 comments on our game being like, yeah, it's kind of a cool fishing game, and then the 6th one being like, guys, what about the Cthulhu monster at the bottom of the lake? Why is no one talking about this? Like I'm almost less interested in getting really good ratings on this one as much as just the interesting journey that people might take when they start realizing something weird is going on.
Okay, here's my way that you can convey this stuff, right? Yeah. So at the end of each day, you walk up to the cabin, like say, a bunch of fixed camera perspectives. I'm not sure exactly what they are. But maybe you go from your little thing to the cabin. Mm-hmm. It's the only real thing you can do. Speak to the dude there on the counter. There's like an in the counter place. Yeah. And you leave and you go to the shore and you can cast that from the shore. And at one point you get the message in the bottle. And when you leave at the end of the day, you're gathering cash by selling whatever you've got in your bag. Yeah. And I guess maybe if you sell the message in the bottle, the guy's like, this guy knows too much. And that's how you die and lose.
Or he just offers you quite a lot of money for it, so you don't keep it to read it.
Well, I was just thinking, like at the end of the day, you're opening your like suitcase, briefcase, or whatever, and I'm thinking like, what are the various, like, how can you play this off as a regular fishing game?
Yeah.
Like, I think like you probably do want some kind of ending where you just sell him fish and get a load of money. Yeah. Like maybe at the beginning of the game, he explicitly says, or someone explicitly says, like, you know, you're trying to pay off a debt. It's like, if you just make $1,000 or whatever, and the guy's like, hey, I'm Fisherman Brian. I'm here to help you on your fishing journey or whatever. Yeah. And like, if you get $1,000 into the game, like you do just win.
Yes.
And then there is a way to lose and be fed to a Lovecraftian horror at the bottom. But like, if you know too much, and there's an additional way. It's a 3-ending game, or at least a 2-ending game.
Well, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Give a man a fishing rod and he'll pay back his debts.
Yeah, exactly. He'll pay back his debt to the government. This is fun. I like the idea of doing it in 3D because I want to conjure up some scenes and maybe make it so that you can, like being in the store. Originally, I was going to have like a character, like all 2D flat UI stuff. But I think it's more fun to have to walk up to the guy and press A, and like there's a machine in the corner, like you say, that lets you just a bin.
Yeah. But like, I do like the idea that when you sell him some stuff and then you like walk off to leave and he starts using it, and if you come back fast enough, you can see what's currently like in the bin, in the grinder, before it gets destroyed. And it's like, I think
a fun thing to do actually would be like, if you sell him some, like when you go to the bin, it's like another box inventory and you can drag your stuff into the bin.
And it just has a loading bar on being crushed, essentially. So
Yeah, or not even just like it's gone the next day, right? You have to go
Well,
home
sure,
to sleep every night,
Yeah.
and then come back.
That works.
And then when you come back in, like you can, like when you leave the shop, you can sell stuff to him.
Yeah.
And then if you double back, you could go in the bin and see what he's binned.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes checking it, like even the first clue you get isn't even something you fish up. It's just something he's put in the bin,
And you can use
get
it
it out
as
of the
bait
bin.
to get something weird.
Yeah. You can get it out of the bin and examine it as a 3D object or whatever and start getting some clues.
Yeah, like I do like the idea of this all being very emergent. I think that's very cool to start finding those weird little hints and secrets and stuff.
What do you reckon, Will? How you feeling about that?
I'm feeling good about this. This is nice. This is remember Crooks?
Yeah. Matt still talks about it all the time.
Similar sort of dystopian unraveling a secret story.
Yes.
Vibe.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
Yeah, it is. And these things do well in the game jams.
Getting the pacing right is going to be a bit tricky.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have that. There's got to be an early on sort of. That's a bit weird.
Yes. I think the game needs to feel like what we've tried to do is make a fairly simplistic Ludum Dare game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like little things like having the cast go like needs to feel like, oh, that's a fun fishing idea. You know, like we'll do a load of stuff with that.
Yeah.
And then that bit will feel fun, and where you go and stand, you can go and fish, and like I said, like you can upgrade your line at the end of the day. And he's like, hey, do you want to, extend your line that lets you throw further into the deeps? Like there's better fish out there, but we know, we also hide some more secrets out there or something.
Yeah. And then something just takes your fucking fishing rod off you and pisses off with it, and you're like, what on earth?
And he comes back and he's like, oh, sorry, this one's on me for free, and he's visibly swaying.
Yeah, I like
that.
the idea of...
I lost you guys for a second there.
We were just agreeing together.
One of the best things about this idea as well is that we always deliberate over the name of the game, but we have one going in this time.
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
Fishy
true.
Lake. We know it. It's a lake where fishy things happen.
Have you guys got me?
Oh, I totally
missed
missed
big delay.
What did you say?
Yeah, we've got you.
Okay, cool.
You bet. Yeah.
No, Fishy Lake it's a good one, isn't it? So okay, I think the way we do it. Let me can we just crack open a Google Doc, write down some things, and then we'll come back to it soon, because I don't think any of us have got too much life left in us.
Matt? You're quick at typing.
Like when I wake up, I'm not going to get straight into this. I'm going out for a coffee and I'm going to detox for 2 hours. So I think the way we do it is, there's one cabin you go to. You go and fish from one place, albeit it can have a couple spots, maybe like a jettied kind of pier. Maybe one of the things you can unlock lets you like get past some rocks. Like you can pay him to clear out the rocks for 500 and you can fish from here. And we do need to make some like fishing things. Like there's a bunch of rocks on the right. So when you start the game, you're like, oh, get $500 to clear the rocks, and then when he clears the rocks, I'll go and fish for cooler fish.
Mm-hmm.
Like we need to make that feel like it's just a regular fishing game where there's like a loose sense of progression.
Be a person. So boot in the foot with oh shit.
I think having a boot with a label sewn into the inside with someone's name on it that you've heard is kind of funny. You know what I think is okay? Here's how we do some additional stuff. I hope I'm not upscoping. Every morning, every night you go back. There's maybe even we do a day-night cycle, so you can only fish for X amount of hours. Every night you have to go back. At some point, like he closes the fish and he's like, "That's enough for you now. Go to bed, or you can go home early." And every morning you wake up and you get the newspaper for the day, and it's giving you, it's like Fisherman's Weekly or whatever, and it's telling you like, here's all the fish that you can get today. Here's some tips. Try fishing in the left-hand side of the lake or whatever. But there's always like hidden news stories in like the sub-articles, and it's like, Brian Dillon missing for 5 days. Like it's Fisherman News, like Fisherman Brian Dillon, body still not found, and then you can find Brian Dillon's boot in the lake or whatever.
Yeah. Oh no, Louisiana James.
Louisiana James. Yeah, we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep it alive.
I like
so something
that
like
it
that.
comes
That
out
could be
at
a good
night.
way of doing some narrative stuff. Because I think the narrative you'll get is mostly going to be from when you talk to the one other dude in the game.
Yeah. Staying up later into the night, like you could get slightly spookier things happening, and he's coming out like, right, it's really time for you to go in now.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
not that anything goes on after dark, but you should really go in.
Like, I've got to close up shop, so we need to leave. Turning into like, I thought I told you to leave. Yeah, like if you stay 5 nights until like the end of the fishing. Because I think if you stay the whole night as well, maybe you can't sell what's in your tackle bag or something. So there's a mechanical reason not to do it.
You could buy a cool box and save the fish for the next morning.
Yeah, shit like that. This is good. This is fun. This is how you make this small. So I think in terms of scenes, you have maybe like, maybe your house. Okay, you've got the cabin that you speak to the guy in. You've got the area you fish from, and you've got whatever the like going home equivalent area is. So maybe like a little path to your cabin, and then when you go to the door, that's just sleep for the night. So you have to walk back down a path every night as well. It's kind of spooky.
Oh, unless refrigerated, there could be a fridge in the shop, like in the back. And when you open it, there's like things that shouldn't be in a fridge, like a head.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I like this. I like this a lot. I can imagine how we can do this. So in my head, 3D wise, there's 3 3D scenes. There's the cabin, there's where you fish from, and then there's the path home and your cabin, but you don't go inside. It's just like a door where you end the night. And then every morning you get like to read the newspaper for the morning, and then fades in from black, and then you hear like a boom, 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 and then fades in, and we see our guy at our door. We walk up the path to the thing. We go into the cabin. We are in the cabin, and maybe even in the cabin, it's not even a scene. Maybe it is just flat 2D guy and an inventory. It's just a shopping screen, effectively. So maybe it's just 2 3D scenes. A walk up the path to the shop to give you some spookiness and detox and like a good transition, and then the shoreline where we have mostly just water that you can cast into. I think I might use a similar stylizer that we used in While Alive as well. Keep it kind of like grimy and pixelated. But I'm thinking for
like, have you seen that one where it's a bird and you can go in a boat and it picks up that? Yeah, that. Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
What a game.
It's a really good game.
I've not played it. It just looks beautiful.
No, it's really good. It's actually a genuinely really good game. Oh, fun idea. If we're having 3D objects you can rotate freely, which I think we can do, you can have a fish where you tilt it this way, something falls out of its mouth.
Nice, yes. But if you put it in the grinder, it breaks the grinder or something. And then the guy's fuming at you. Or really all of his naughty stuff could start accumulating in the bin because the grinder's broken.
Yeah, okay. There's a few things we could do here, definitely. So we need to work out what I think I know what the first thing I'm doing is. I think it's a lot of 3D work, right? I'm going to make 2 areas, and I'm going to do a Photoshop mock-up of what I think the shop screen looks like. And then if you guys... Someone should do how the fishing mechanic actually works, because like ultimately the most basic thing we need to do here is make a fishing game. So I think what you're doing is you're basically casting out a line in 3D space, which really just goes forward from where you are. Something plops into the water. You wait a little while until you get like a catch. And then I guess the minimum is you can just reel it in and just like mash A even. Like we don't even need a mini game necessarily, but something like fun.
So, like, it could be scrolling down on the scroll wheel or turning the stick around in circles.
Yeah, it's like something that feels loosely gamey, so we feel like we're making a fishing game. And then a lot of what the actual gameplay is really just getting money, selling to the guy at the end of the day.
What do you want the money for?
You sell to the guy at the end of the day, and he sells upgrades for your rod.
Okay.
And then... Yeah, you have to get to X amount of cash, maybe, or like there's a couple of goals maybe at the beginning of the game, and like one of them might just be like, I got 10 grand to pay off. and I know there's a catfish in there the size of a boat. These are the 3 things I want to capture. But you just like fade in on like text on black or whatever. You're like, okay, I've got a few ideas of things I could do in the game, and then that's what you're attempting to do. And then maybe it's either like after 30 days the game would end, or maybe after you hit a certain cash amount the game would end.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a day-night cycle to a degree. There's some kind of timed element to that. You can cast out your line from blow up. Maybe there's some kind of stamina bar like they have in a Harvest Moon. I don't know if that's necessary. Maybe just day-night cycle is fine, and you just get as many fish as you can. You sell to the guy, you buy the upgrades that let you get the better fish that are worth more money, and that's half of the game right there. I'm excited now.
Yeah, this is fun. I haven't used Blender in like a year, but like assets wise, I'm happy to help out with that one.
That would be really cool too. I'm gonna do like a mock-up on Photoshop and then start just like mashing stuff in. I might grab some free assets as well and just start texturing stuff up and seeing how it feels.
I can sort of imagine how I'd model a boot. So I imagine the boot with a stump of a foot in it is probably a good place to start in terms of working out aesthetic-wise where we're aiming with things.
Yeah, I think things like things that are going to be specific to like we need to make it some kind of character model and animate them to walk around.
Like the game icon could be that boot with the tiniest hint of the 2 bones sticking out the top.
We have a logo for this already because I did a
mock-up
on it. Yeah, we really wanted to make this game, albeit a grander version. But this might be good enough. It was like a coelacanth, because they're just like the creepiest looking fish.
Yeah.
Around a quite nice, like farmy looking font, like the kind of thing you might have on a homestead. It's like Fishy Lake, but like surrounded by like a quite spooky looking fish.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah,
I feel like we're gonna, whoever's doing music wise, we need to be hitting Animal Crossing vibes for the first opening of the menu.
Yeah. Well, we would need like one piece that we can slowly deteriorate through, right? Like the first night you're there, you get like sleepy vibes. And I think we maybe want some underlying system of like anger. Like I say, if you stay after dark often enough, maybe that's where you get the bad ending. Because I think staying after dark the first time, the guy should be like, you stayed the whole night. I've closed up shop now, but don't forget, you need to finish before 8 p.m. so you can sell me stuff because I can't buy any, and whatever. You're like, oh, it's a mechanic. Like, I got to finish my fishing at 7 and then go and sell the guy the stuff or whatever. And then later on, if you're staying.
So you learn that first night, like, your fish have all gone bad, so you can't sell those to me. So go and put them in the grinder out back.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of, okay, yeah. This is cool.
I like that.
So maybe like part of the shop. Yeah, okay, here's my idea. There's 2 3D scenes. There's the 3D scene on the walk there, and there's the 3D scene on the other side of the cabin. So there's 2 like cabins is where you live, and there's the fisherman's cabin, and they're both inaccessible spaces. Like the fisherman's cabin is just a menu, and your cabin is just do you want to go to sleep? And then maybe like the fisherman's cabin has like a little back bit with like a fence, and then after 8 p.m. Like late, like if you stay too late, that fence swings open or whatever, and he's like, "Go on, go in the back and use the grinder." Like, I'm gonna unlock that for you, or whatever, and maybe we can hide something in there, or there's another, because I think the shop with the interaction with the guy should just be a 2D menu, just to keep it very simple.
I'm picturing
who will do a drawing of the deteriorates.
I'm picturing the classic like Zelda jostling a bit of foliage and like a rupee comes out, except it's something really grim, like a toe.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the newspaper is a good way to do that. If we have a newspaper pop up every day,
daily newspaper.
We can leave unsettling things in there, and then narratively we're going to have to work out the things that you do to win. Like I say, fishing up suspicious boot, fishing up some kind of message that's been sent to you from somewhere. We're going to have to work on that one. We're going to have to think about how that one works, because what we have right now is a really cool reveal that something sinister is happening. But how do you interact with that in a meaningful way?
And ultimately, end of the game, Badman gets fed to the monster in the deep.
That would be the ideal outcome, yeah. Or you can drag him out of the. Yeah, if you can like sell him some
You like
poison fish.
cast your fishing rod at him because you've got this really.
Leave the cabin. We do like a fade to black. Yeah.
You just you cast him off into the lake and you just hit like boop, and eats him.
It would be kind of a fun thing to do. Is like, if there's a scene where like fades to black and you hear like scuffle sounds and it's clear that it's like someone died, and then it starts with you by the lake and you can walk up to the lake, and if you open your briefcase, it's just like a dead body in there, and you can just be like yoink and like get rid of that, and that's your.
Or like ending scene, you walk out of the shop, and then new guy walks up and he's like, "Hey, welcome to the lake." Like you go all full circle.
Okay, interesting. You've become some kind of love. Okay.
Like you've killed the guy now. You're the one with the secrets.
And that's when we go to AWS, and you write all the dialogue for the next shopkeeper. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, like your float will be on the surface of the water, getting closer and closer to you as you're wrestling with the fish. So your tapping of A is you're bringing the fish closer and closer, but it's also like putting tension on the line, like bringing it up to a line break, so you can adjust the pressure with your stick.
I've been playing the new game by the original Harvest Moon guys, and they have a really hyper simple fishing thing, which is basically sometimes it's red on the screen, don't mash when it's red. Sometimes it's blue on the screen, mash when it's blue. And I think something like that might be enough for something this scope to be like most of what you're doing is casting out further to get better fish, and then the better fish are harder to catch. They've got more like red period than blue period. And whenever you mash during red, you're filling up like a bar that if it maxes out, you lose the fish or whatever.
Yeah. So like line stress.
Line stress, exactly. And then you can you can mash freely when it's blue and it'll come towards you. But then someone's going like, weh, and you go like, oh no, don't mash. And that might be enough.
Yeah. So a nice way to visualize that for the character animations is as it's getting closer and closer, you can pull your rod up, and then you can bring in that slack. But if you're all the way down and he's like pulling against you, and you keep trying to reel it in, then you get the line.
Okay, yeah, I get that. That's fun. And then I think you're like saying mouse wheel is a fun way of doing it, or we could do right stick maybe. We'll see which one. We'll start with mouse and keyboard. But.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What I think would be a good one is like to get the good ending is like at the end you've been getting all this information. The guy susses you out and he's like, here, a little gift saying you've been such a good fisherman coming here. And he was like a special glowing worm. And he's like, this is guaranteed you a good fish. And fishing that up fishes up a Cthulhu monster that kills you. But if you've got enough information, you can intentionally fuck that one up to survive the night.
I feel like we're secretly back playing a Little Shop of Horrors story where
I never saw it.
You've never seen it?
No.
So it's about a guy, there's a total eclipse of the sun, and he goes to this Chinese shop in Chinatown and buys this weird looking plant that like really likes drinking blood and won't drink anything else, and then gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, then multiplies and takes over the world basically. But it could be like this Cthulhu monster that's in the deep was his little pet fish that he had as a kid. And he's just been descending into chaos and having to feed it more and more people.
Little Bessie in the lake, absolutely. We can do
that. Is
cool
just a direct rip off of Little Shop of Horrors, though.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Fishy Lake. This is the lake where I keep my fishy. That sounded weird.
Okay, we can definitely do something with this. I think like 60% of this game makes sense in my head right now. I think we do need to work out the way in which you subvert the mechanic. What are all the steps you have to take, and are they so obfuscated and precise that you aren't likely to take them? Does it have to be when you pick something up and take it home? Do you maybe get like a cutscene that night where it's like you considered this is like what mechanically changes the next day? Do you just need to gather evidence? Like what's the, you know what I mean?
I think it could be that it's not that you, like it may be that discovering all this is totally inevitable at some point. Like, let's not do total random number generation like you guys did with the obelisk that ended up being a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Like, after some amount of casts, a story event will happen.
I agree. I think you should definitely have to find the boot or the message in the bottle or whatever. It's then like, how do you, like, what do you do at that point? Like, is it that you have to take stuff in and be like, if you can you like choose to release something into the water, and maybe you have to buy stuff and release it into the water? So like, you know, you can pick up a fish and you can choose to let it go to make space for a bigger fish or whatever, and that's how we introduce that mechanic. And then later you can buy something from the shop, and the guy can be like, I need some materials to get off this island in the lake or whatever. Can you pick me up blank? And the guy is selling that, which would seem mechanical in another light, like, you know, the guy needs a specific reel.
So it's like
but like line, like I need fishing line. Like, and you can be like, I'm going to buy the upgraded fishing line, but instead of equipping it, I'm going to release it into the water, and then that will go to the guy or whatever.
And then the following morning, there's another message in the bottle, or
exactly.
something like received.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. And for the record, Will. We actually were under quite a lot of time pressure, Will.
I liked it.
I can definitely imagine a couple of things making it so that playing the game the hard way is what gets you the good ending. Like, I can imagine that the guy requesting you release stuff freely into the water requires that you did some good fishing and had enough money to do that. And also little things like if you leave stuff in the bin, like the message in the bottle, the guy goes cold on you and refuses to sell you certain things or whatever, because he read the message and the guy's like, I want this special spool, and the guy's like, actually sorry, we're not selling that today, and you can be like,
Yeah.
And then if you don't go to the bin, like I say, at the end of every night when the shop closes up, the gate swings open to the grinder, and he's like, the fish is all spoiled, I'm sorry, you can't sell it, just throw it in the grinder. But if you grind the bottles, the guy never finds out about it. But you don't get to make money that night. So like the way to win often requires you to like not make any cash. I can imagine.
Well, like the guy would say in the bottom of the letter, the first letter, do not show this to the shopkeeper.
Yeah, destroy this.
And so like once you've removed the letter from the bottle doesn't exist. You've just got the letter in your inventory. And if you try and sell it to him, the guy's like, what on earth?
Yeah.
Like,
what are these fantasies? Yeah, that could be a fun way of doing it. I do think the idea of like, I think even just something like leaving it in, I think to get suspicious of the guy, maybe just like, maybe selling it. I think like having a bin and a grinder isn't necessary if you're gonna have, how do we minimize the mechanics basically? Like you can sell something or just destroy it, and destroying is the actual safe way to do it. In which case, he offers you a high price, and if you sell it to him, he then reads it and then doesn't offer you the thing that is required, and maybe you get like one shot at that, and the guy's like, you didn't send me my spool, I have to assume something intercepted, and then you're like, I shouldn't sell the next one or whatever, otherwise you fucked that narrative line, and then you just go and do the fishing.
Yeah.
Some really good stuff there. Yeah, I'm going to have a very easy night and relaxed morning.
Mm-hmm. In terms of where we start making things, mechanics wise and inventory wise, I think are going to be the biggest time sinks. Like getting the fishing working is one thing. Getting the I've never done anything inventory wise in Unity. That would be totally new to me. Probably
if you want to
very
start
complicated.
with something comfy, I mean, I guess mechanically, do you want to work out what you're going to tackle tomorrow? Because if you want to start in Blender, even you can start in Blender. I think what I'm going to want to do initially is just like paper and pen, work out what I think it should look like, and then start gathering. I'll white box it out, and then we'll gather the correct meshes, and I'll do some texturing. I'm going to be mostly on art, especially with you guys.
Okay.
Like, I don't want
Are we
much
going?
me doing anything else.
Are we going totally like flat shaded?
Flat shaded, yeah.
Low
So like,
poly,
or maybe like gradient, like flat kit or something. So like loosely cell shaded, maybe. Probably using the Wildlife gritty pixel filter. I like it. I think also in my head it's how I'm already picturing it. Just a little bit grimy.
Yeah, I'm currently picturing like what's it called? The Witness, sort of everything sunny and rosy sort of thing.
I think like say we'll do a day night. Like when you begin the game, it should feel cute and sweet, and then the music should be nice, and then I think we will have some under the hood numbers that are going up about like discoveries and like creepiness music going up. The grade will change. The ambient music will probably be the main thing that changes, right?
Yeah. I'm still a little bit bitter that in LD32, one of the winning games used a bloom post effect and basically just automatically looked better than everything else on the game jam. So that's happening.
We'll use some bloom, don't you worry. We will use a lot of post processing, and then I'll slap the stylizer filter over it, and it will look like really weirdly nice. So I think some of the things that need to happen quite quickly is what is it like to cast a line out, and then like maybe good meshing and bad meshing and getting a fish, and then when you get something, presumably the first thing you do is have a screen to examine it, and then like a button that's like go to storage, and then you have a 2D representation of the thing on a grid that you could put in, maybe rotating on the grid. Someone should do that. So you can like do some maybe that's maybe one of the first things you want to have a stab at.
Do what? Sorry.
Putting things in. Do you ever play Resident Evil 4?
No.
What are other games that do this?
No. Oh yeah, very briefly. I don't really remember it. I think inventory's the thing that terrifies me the most. I'm happy to crack that egg.
Well, you don't have to do that. I mean, like inventory is mostly going to be. It doesn't even have to be UI. Actually, it doesn't have to be.
It's
2D layers and stuff. It's just like
it's a core gameplay mechanic in it. It's got to be right.
Yeah.
Okay. See how we feel in the morning.
Okay, I will be. I'm just gonna want to sleep off this booze, but.
Brilliant.
This is going to be good, gang. We're going to get this good. As soon as we get a few visuals in there, this is going to really come together. I have two distinct things I want to get done, and that's character, environment, and then that shopping screen, and making a guy who looks jolly, who we can slowly deteriorate into something quite spooky.
Yeah.
All right, sick.
Yeah. Good times.
Good luck.
Even if we don't get this finished, there are going to be some story beats that'll make people like, ugh.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, we are going to get it finished. It's going to be sick.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
We're good at this now.
Right.
Okay.
Week in the morning, folks.
Peace out.
Bye.
See you, YouTube.